session, but now it's starting recording. Recording is now in session.
So
that fix
that's
it?
us, Dr. Carpos.
Okay.
That 615 number, that's the room. It's not a member of the public. That's why we couldn't see it up there. All right, just kidding. Well, now that we're recording, I'm gonna go ahead and start over. It's 10:07, I'm gonna call the meeting to order. I just want to recognize all board members that are in the room. Michael Stahl is virtual due to COVID. We are in conference room F, Tennessee Tower. Let's go ahead and do roll call, starting with Mr. Dunn.
It's Mike Dunn, present.
Lee Frank, present.
Jerry Bassfinder, present.
Betsy Wiseman, present.
Mary Carpos, present.
Vanessa Murtaugh, chair, present. We do have a physical quorum. The meeting will continue. Mr. Lindsay is not with us today, so Brother Dunn, if you could lead us in opening prayer.
Yes, ma'am. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for the opportunity you give us to serve. We ask your special blessings on our nation today after the tragic events of Saturday. And we ask you to be with the families of the injured, including the Trump family, and with the family members of the lost. And we pray for healing in this nation, and we pray your guidance and protectance from this day forward. May you bless this board. May you give us the ideas and the strength and the guidance to go on and press on toward the goal. We ask you to open doors for us that only you can, and keep the ones closed we don't need to waste time in. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. And with that, Mr. Stahl, if you want to go ahead and take over, the floor is yours.
Yeah, great. So I think we sent out the meeting minutes from Wednesday. If everyone had a chance to look over those and we want to approve those, we can do that now. I know it's a short turnaround, so if people want more time to review that transcript, we can do that. But as we all know, the transcript gets transcribed directly from the audio, so there typically isn't any problems. How would everyone feel about voting and approving those minutes from last Wednesday now?
I move to approve the minutes from July 10th.
Second.
Great. All in favor say yes.
Yes. Yes.
All opposed say no. All right, the motion passes. Thank you. Okay, we're moving on to the second agenda item, which is the discussion regarding scope of work related to the board's mission and goals. Just some preliminary thoughts on this. This came up at the last meeting because we've made some progress toward substantive work, and there's a couple of different things that the board probably needs to take up. And we've approved our mission statement. So we've got the mission statement, we've got the statutory language, and then we've got everybody's understanding of the board's roles and responsibilities from their own personal experience, from talking with their appointing authorities. So what we need to do now, and until we get it done, quite frankly, is we need to decide on what we're going to be doing on a day-to-day basis. Do you guys hear that feedback? Is there any feedback coming?
No.
Okay. All right. Just must be on my end. But what we need to do for this agenda item is we need to determine what the board is going to be doing on a practical basis, day to day, month to month. And there's a couple of different proposals for that. One proposal is that the board considers and looks at the granting of good time credits in general, meaning prior to disciplinary actions. And then obviously, I think everyone agrees that the board should also be considering good time credits that have been reduced or at issue after an incident occurs. So like I said, we talked a little bit about this previously. Mike Dunn has proposed 4 questions that I think the board should consider. And so what I'd like this discussion to do is I'd like people to take a look at the mission that's been approved by the board previously, take a look at the statutory language, take a look at the 4 questions that Mike Dunn has proposed, and in combination with all those things, have a discussion about what the board is going to be doing on a day-to-day basis and a month-to-month basis. And then I would ask that once somebody feels comfortable enough moving to clarify what those responsibilities are going to be day-to-day, month-to-month, so that everybody's in agreement and we can move forward. So if anyone feels that they have a good position on that now and would like to make a motion and discuss it, we can do that. Or we can just have an open discussion about those 3 things, about what our mission says that's already been adopted by the board, what the statutory language says our role should be and our responsibility should be, and the 4 questions that have been posed by Mike Dunn, and how all of those things combine to give us our guidance and what we're going to be doing, so that when we start talking about substantive issues, we know where we're coming from. So I would open it up to everybody. I think we left off on Wednesday discussing the role of an IT consultant and how that would fit into the board's mission and responsibilities. We can pick up there, or we could all agree that we're going to need to look at the incidents on a month-to-month basis, and then move on that role, and then discuss other roles and responsibilities of the board. However everyone wants to do it. What are some thoughts?
Did the feedback stop for you about halfway through that, Michael?
Yes. Yeah.
That's so when we are not muted, you have feedback. When we are
Okay.
muted, you do not have feedback.
Okay.
So that's
Got it.
Okay. Am I on?
You're on.
Okay. And this is my view of the board. And I think since there is some question about, and Brother Dunn and I have talked about this as well, that he has an idea, and I think Mary maybe, I'm not going to speak for Mary, but I know Mike does, that, and this is where Mr. Basin comes in, to have him look at possibly the awarding that we talked about. But at the main time, I believe our main focus is the disciplinaries that we go through once they come through every day, each and every day. I believe that's our main job at this time, because of course we don't even have the procedure because Mr. Basin, and who knows how long that would take. It might take 2 months, might take 3 months, but I believe that we can, to move the board forward, I see us going with both. We can come in from both, I believe. And I don't know how anyone else feels. I know Mike, and I think Jerry feels comfortable with that, Michael. I was, and I won't make the motion now, but I am, what I'm looking to propose here shortly would be to have Don Basin, and I talked to Michael and he said it's perfectly fine for us to do this, to maybe pay him up to 10 hours to bring a proposal to us. I understand people have their lives and they want to get paid. And as a contract, and because Jerry and I were talking, Jerry feels like, and I do as well, that wants to see a proposal exactly what he can do. And I was thinking maybe Mike and Mary could get with Mr. Basin and say, this is what we're looking to do. Bring us a proposal and have it for us next week or next month, if that's okay. Sure. And then while that's going on, and hopefully he will bring something we can use, and then we would vote on it then if we want to proceed to hire Mr. Basin, would be next month. While that's going on, we're doing the main part of the work, which is reviewing cases, which I think that covers both angles. And I'm hoping Mr. Basin can come with something that is beneficial to us. I'm not looking at this as just, hey, let's make peace and pass this, and waste money. I'm hoping he can actually have something for us. So anyway, that's how I see us as of right now moving forward. So I don't know if anyone else has
Well,
comments.
So, and all of that sounds completely reasonable, but I'm gonna ask the question, back it up, Lee. Back it up to what is it? What is our job? What are we doing? Like, I get the whole, like, you're saying, Dunn could do this, and we could do that,
Well, I
and
think
Jerry
there's- I think
agrees,
there's-
and let's hire an IT guy.
I think there's
So,
two
like,
things.
so I wanna know what.
From reading the statute, it is fairly vague. I mean, it does talk about looking at good credits.
Okay,
and
so
how
then that's
they're
what I'm
given.
asking, like,
And
what
then
is
it
it?
talks about looking at disciplinaries. So I see it as it's, you know, and Mike, you go ahead. You were talking about maybe meeting with the legislative intent.
I've mentioned this before. I think if we're really gonna sharpen our focus, our scope, we really need to get the request from the governor's office, from the lieutenant governor's office, and from the speaker of the house. They're our appointing authorities. We need to do what their wishes state. And they're the ones that have sent us to do this work. And if there's a question about our work, then we need to seek from them what they want us to do.
Well, I
I
think that's
mentioned that
where the
before.
problem is. I know I'm interrupting, I'm sorry. But, like, I think they had different ideas. I mean, I think we all, like, which is fine, like, I
Sure.
think it's up to us to,
Sure.
I mean, I think the statutory language is vague for whatever reason, intentionally or not. But I think now it's our responsibility to how we want to interpret it. I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad idea, I'm just saying they're gonna say three different things and then we're gonna be back where we started.
Right.
And when are you gonna get a meeting with all three of them, and how long are we gonna have to wait for that?
Right.
Right, so there's that problem. I'm with you, I'm all with you, but I think right now, before we even discuss Baisden and what he can do for us, I want, as a board, like, very black letter, no gray, what each board member thinks we're supposed to do as a board. No fluff, no expounding upon it, no elucidation, none of it. Simply, this is what we were hired to do. Boom. And then from there, if we can all agree, like, that is the basics, that's the bone, right? Then we can start to expand on that and say, okay, well, if our job is to review disciplinaries, right, this is how we're gonna do that. If our job is to review good credit awarded, this is how we're gonna do that, right? And then start to expand, and then at some point, the bubble gets bigger and we can say, okay, here's Baisden, right? But I wanna bring it in really tight and narrow, really, really, really tight and narrow in your Western Union Telegraph words. What is it we do here? And then if we can all get that, then we can move on to the next piece,
We
I
could
think.
formulate that and then approach the three. This is what we've come up with. Does it meet your approval?
I was told, do what you want. I was told we are given a lot of freedom. Like, I was, this is kind of their overarching, which their overarching is our overarching.
Sure.
But when we try to say, like, I think, like, last meeting really, really bothered me, because listening to each board member, there are slight variations. And if we can't all get on the same page, we're never gonna make a plan. We're never gonna get anywhere. So I wanna start with the Venn diagram, right? Like, where do we all overlap? And then we can move from there.
Friday, I watched for the second time all of the videos from the Senate and the House of Representatives as they discussed enacting our board last year. And I can tell you the repeat of the show was no better than the first run. To me, public safety was their number one goal. It varies, which I know the statute says that we shall review the awarding of sentence credits and the retraction of sentence credits for disciplinary actions. To me, what I took out of watching the videos again, listening to each one of the persons that were the presentators, which most were Leader Lambert and Senator Jackson in the Senate, that the review of inmate disciplinaries was our our main function, that they do not want inmates to be receiving disciplinary credits if they are committing disciplinary, or do not want to receive sentence reduction credits if they are committing disciplinary acts in the prison. And I have reviewed the TDOC policy for sentence credits and administrative procedures, along with the Tennessee State Law, TCA 4121 for 236, I believe, that sets out the sentence reduction credits and how they are brought out. It's quite clear in the state law that the prison can award up to 8 behavioral credits per month and up to 8 program credits per month. If they commit a disciplinary act in that month, they have the ability to reduce, they can take away from their any behavioral credits that were built up. Plus, they cannot receive any more credits for that 30-day period. So
Does that date from the date of their disciplinary event?
Yes, and it's they use it as a 30-day period because it's not technically February the 1st to March 1st, because inmates come in on a certain day, and the statute says in a 30-day period. So there's 30-day periods are kind of staggered through there. But the Tennessee Department of Corrections says that during the first calendar year of imprisonment, behavioral credits are only awarded at a rate of 4 days per month. You have to be in the prison at least 1 year before you go up to 6 days with a chance of getting the 2-day bonus day. So their statute is plain, the TCA code is plain on that an inmate, if they are not written up for A, B, or C disciplinary act, now they can have a verbal reprimand, but if they are not written up, then they can receive behavioral credits. And if they attend the program, it is up to the instructor of the program to decide if they get 1 credit or they could get the maximum 8, depends on their participation. So to me, our main goal is to look at their disciplinaries, and then as far as whether or not they receive their credits, one is, are they receiving credits after they had a disciplinary write-up, because they're not supposed to, and 2, are they actually extracting the credits away from them, which appears that they are. And as far as what Dr. Karpos and Mr. Dunn have said about receiving their credits, I have noticed this, I guess you'd call it abnormal trait in Thomas. If you look at their behavior days, not their program days, but their behavior days in Thomas, every one that receives like their 6 behavioral days is entered by, it says Thomas ID, and it's Thomas and then some letters. It doesn't matter if it was from Bledsoe, Northwest, Morgan County. So it appears that the computer system is awarding that. If you look at the behavioral days, the program days where they have gone, it is a person's name.
Right.
So the question that I see is, and I feel that we probably need, is we need some sort of download monthly of everybody that has received a disciplinary act, and if they receive days, because we're only looking at A's as far as our retraction. But if they got a C or a B, they're still not supposed to receive any good time credit on that. That could be done analytical, I guess, through a spreadsheet showing who's got it. But I think our primary responsibility is to determine whether or not the Department of Corrections is following, one, the TCA code, and two, their own guidelines as far as reviewing disciplinary infractions and the removal of credit. Because by their law, if you've got a person that continuously is getting the write-up, you can use up all their days that you can pull every day away from them. But the warden can actually add up to 5 years. And I've seen people that are sentenced basically like to a 20-year sentence, that now their effective release date, 24 years, where they've acted up enough, the warden is added time. And any person that's incarcerated that is not in maximum security or segregation is eligible for credits. So another thing we have to look at is you've got people that are serving life sentences that are technically listed as a minimum security restriction prisoner. They're serving life sentences. They can go to programs if they want to. They can get good time credit, but it basically is a wash because it's not going to get them out early.
Right, like the one we were looking at last week.
Right.
So it's just awarding the credits if you look.
It's awarding the credits,
But it's
not
not
applied.
going to affect his date.
It's not applied.
But that, to me, is the way I see it. And the state law says that, the maximum amount of program credits, if you attended program month after month after month, is 60 days a year. That's maximum, no matter how many programs. And then as far as the behavioral days, the maximum is 6 + 2, so it's 8.
Oh, right. Right.
But I feel like that our primary purpose is to review disciplinary actions, but then we also have to look at if they're getting sentence credits if they're not due.
And that's really, I think that works with what we're talking about doing here. I agree with Jerry. That's our main goal. But it also is in the statute, the other part, which I think that's where I would like to see what Mr. Basden can bring. As far as his proposal, I would like to see that. I mean, you say what exactly, that's what I would like to say. I would like, because that's going to be a process regardless, 3-4 months, whatever it's going to take. While that's going on, we're doing 100% focus on this job, where however we spread them out each month, either we take 200 each or we do percentage. I think trying to catch up, we're talking about doing percentage, and we go over it until people get comfortable. And that's what we're doing. Every day we wake up, we do that. We do it. And we get better at it, we get better at it. So that's how I see our job.
So I have Lee says both credits and disciplinaries. Jerry says the review of disciplinaries is our main objective, but that we need to pull in the other piece of it, right? I mean, I'm not worried. I hear what you're saying, Lee, but I don't, like, I kind of feel like you feel like you're trying to convince me of something.
No, I'm
Yeah,
not.
no, like,
Do you not think that
I'm-
this has any part
Well, I'm
to
about
do?
to tell you,
Okay.
but how, we're gonna go around, we're gonna all say where we sit. So I'm in the Jerry camp, right? Like,
Well, I am.
hold on, we're simply just stating what we see our job as being. That's all we're doing. So I absolutely think the way it was presented to me from the Lieutenant Governor's office is that we would be reviewing disciplinary reports. When I got my legislative intent, sentencing credits, awarding that other piece was never talked about. It was, did they get a disciplinary and was it handled appropriately? It wasn't like it wasn't the converse that we're trying to now figure out how to even get that information, right? Because the statute is written as such that we're supposed to be reviewing both sides of the coin. But when it was presented to me, by the Lieutenant Governor's office, it was presented as just the one side, right? That Cleotha had disciplinaries and was still awarded credit, right? So that we were supposed to review across the board and make sure that these policies that Jerry has so amazingly pulled for us and put into documents that we're making sure that across the board, all TDOC facilities or core civic facilities are doing what they're supposed to be doing per the TCA and TDOC policy and guidelines, right? So I'm with Jerry. I think and given the conversations on the floor, that's legislative intent, right? They're arguing about what we're supposed to be doing. It's all this disciplinary actions, right? So that's, I think, for me, that's our main focus, right? The disciplinary reports. I think if we're going to follow the statute, even though it's vague, we have to at least think about, right? Like it has to be a thought that's sitting out here that we can't ignore it. I don't think right now, I don't think, I'm just going to touch on some of these of what I don't think our job is. I don't think it's advising on policy. I don't think it's touring facilities right now. I mean, these are all things we can do, right? But I think right now, the core of what we do is this, right? And I don't think even all the data collection and handing that over to the legislature and like all of this other stuff that we keep seeming to talk about that's on the outside, I don't think that any of that is part of what we're supposed to be doing. Disciplinary actions, and then somewhere out here that the credits, right? That we have to address it's in the statute. Even though nobody talked about it, it's in the statute, right? And so we have to figure that piece out. So I do agree with you, Lee, that somebody on the board, while we're buckling down and doing this other thing that we already know what we're doing and how to do it for the most part, right? We have a process, right? Somebody on the board needs to be tagged with investigating how do we solve this other piece, right? And what does that mean? And then solving that problem. Where we're not, as a board, we're not trying to solve the problem quite yet,
Right.
But there's somebody tasked with thinking about it. That's where I'm at. But the other stuff, like all this other, like those things that we all had, the B's of every one of those, right? The B, it was always whatever B, whatever B, whatever B. Those, no, that's not our job. None of those. That's where I'm at. Betsy?
I think that makes a lot of sense. I couldn't say it better myself. I think I like what you have to say about maybe using Mr. Baisden to let some people maybe have that on the side, but I think.
Well, I think that's gonna work on its own. I don't think that's gonna be, we don't have the manpower for that. That's gonna have to be generated. I mean, that's how you see it, right? We have no way we have the manpower to do any of that
Or
by
the
hand.
knowledge.
And we might, and maybe 5 or 6 pop up, or if we start seeing a ton, that's gotta be addressed immediately with TDOC. Like Jerry was saying, if they're even getting a C and they're still getting 6, 8 days for good time credit, that is not their policy. That's not what they're supposed to be doing.
And that's our
And
job.
we would find that immediately.
And that is our job. Like that is absolutely what we're here to do, is to catch that and to address it.
And that would be done without, I mean, I'm thinking the computer nerds do all that stuff and that gets done and we
Right.
see it. And I don't think that's gonna be a real long, lengthy process. That's gonna be done, the long, lengthy, 95% of our work is gonna be going through cases with the disciplinaries. I
That's
believe
how I
that.
see it.
And look,
I mean,
last
as far
week,
as man hours go. Sure. Right.
like last week I abstained from the vote, do we need an IT person? But this is what I wanted to do first. So I'm happy now to be in agreement with that idea and to get on board. Not that, I mean, y'all have a majority anyway. But I mean, I'm just explaining my mindset, like I wasn't trying to be obstinate, but I think everything y'all have said has made sense. That's how I see it.
And I think that can move our board forward. as well.
Yes,
Because this is gonna have to take some time while we're doing this and
Right.
getting really proficient at
And-
what we're making.
Yes, and if we're tackling
This is-
one task, right?
Right.
Like, we can move leaps and bounds as a board with that one
That's what
task.
we'll be
Right,
focusing
that's what we're focusing on, and then, Mr. Dunn, I feel like you're probably the guy, but like, on the outside, letting the gears turn, right, and saying, how do we do this, and what are we asking for, and, maybe talking to Mr. Basin or whatever as a collateral, right, as a collateral duty, but if we as a board are focused on that one mission that we know it's in the statute, there's legislative intent, they argued about it on the floor, we as a board are in agreement that one task, we are all united in that one. We can push forward and get a lot of work done and look amazing, right? Instead of trying to do all this other ancillary stuff, and not focusing as much energy, and then we don't look as productive, right, either. So So
I
Mayor-
have one question. When, like, right now, we're working, once we get started, hopefully today or tomorrow, on the percentage, is our goal to do all of them? Or do you think we're always gonna just have to review just a percentage?
My personal opinion is, once we get a feel of it, I think that we'll be able to do all of it
Okay.
in a month. I think starting out to catch up,
Right.
if
we're-
we
we're
started
so
out
far.
at 10%.
Right.
And
Okay.
graduated up.
I would hope
Right.
so, but I don't.
We had talked about, and this is a good point to bring up, maybe a couple of months where everybody gets proficient at it and
Right.
understands what they're doing. And 1,500 a month is a lot if you're really investigating. Maybe we split it up. If you look at that, it's 14 to 15, that's a couple of hundred. I don't know how you split those up. I don't know, because some of the prisons are tiny.
Yeah.
You can't say you've got Deborah, there might be 4 and Jerry's got,
I want DeBerry and Luttrell.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, I mean, that's not, I don't know how we do that, but we're not there
We'll
yet.
figure it out.
But it would be like,
We'll divide by
I don't
number,
know if
not
everybody, I don't know if you would have everyone put them in a big hat and then you're getting from all kinds of prisons, but 200 would be, it's looking like that's about what it's gonna be per month, isn't it? About 1,500, 14 to
Well, and I think if we
1,500.
can develop that percentage formula now, right, then when we're ready for it, it's already in place, right? Like, when we're ready to move
Do
to
you-
that.
That would be, and this is kind of our vision that we've gotten here is good, is that, let's say you've got your 200, if we're gonna do them all, I think it would be best to where we're not missing any.
I do.
And then
I
Betsy goes through and you pick out of your 217, I got a problem with these. And then you send them to Michael and then he shoots them out. And then we check each other's work before we get here to vote. So I know, does that make sense?
Well, yes, no, absolutely. It's the same way, like, he sends out the agenda or, whatever documents, we should all be reviewing that prior to the meeting. So when we get to the meeting's not taking 10 hours because we're all reading it for the first time, right? So if you have 17 and he's got 30 and Mary's got 45, whatever it is, then you gotta review them all before we get in there, because otherwise
We couldn't do it.
we couldn't do it in one day. No, because we should already in our head be like, oh yeah, that's right, that's that one. I feel this
Right.
way about it, right? Like, you should be pulling them up. But
I mean-
before we get you sidetracked,
Right.
Dr. Carpos, it's your turn.
And I'm finding it very helpful to hear each person's perspective. We've been working together for a number of months, and I agree this is an extremely important conversation that perhaps early on we couldn't have had because we had to learn more about what it is that we're looking at. I watched the original ad hoc meetings live. And those meetings became the foundation for proposing the legislation. And I watched the legislature conversations about this, and I agree with everyone. And I think we are all in agreement that this really is about public safety, and that there is a connection between sentence credits and public safety. And that this legislation was meant to look at sentence credits because of a horrific event that we're all familiar with. And as the ad hoc committee looked at the horrific event, the concerns that they expressed had to do with how someone across time could garner so many disciplinaries, nonetheless retain so many sentence credits. And it's the recognition that the existing policy and practices let that happen. And so, as an aside, my concern, and I'm in total agreement with Jerry that we have to always be mindful of the statute in combination with the policies, but the statute in combination with the policies produced the result, which was a significant amount of sentence credits for somebody who across time was indicating by their behavior in facilities that they were a risk. And so I know the policies, I'm familiar with the policies. I saw this board as an opportunity, as an external oversight, to think about how those policies not only awarded these sentence credits and allowed the door to open earlier for this person going out on the streets, and how, if the policy continues to operate in the way that it operated and is operating, it's likely that that door is opening for other similar people. So for me, the board presented itself as an opportunity to not dictate what any agency policy should be, but to provide information that would make all stakeholders better positioned to make decisions about how do we not let this happen again. And that, frankly, is a big data question. And so I've spent 50 years in the correctional business as a criminologist. The last 35 years I've spent with big data. And so when I was approached for the board, it was the discussion about what does big data have to do with our concerns about public safety. Now, big data wasn't named as big data in the legislative discussions, but much of the legislative discussion that focused on discussing disciplinaries and how disciplinaries would be looked at, if you look at those transcripts and those recordings, they were being offered as rebuttals to the criticisms being leveled as to why this board should never exist and why the purpose of this board could never be fulfilled, because it's too big, it's too hard. Nobody has enough time to really look at what this legislation is honing in on. And so Lambert in particular talked about there would be challenges to that, and spent a lot of time talking about it because of the critics who were opposing the creation of this board. But I don't take that conversation as the endorsement that the board in and of itself now must be only focused on what that conversation or that rebuttal was, because the intent of the legislation, and when I read it, I'm sorry, I don't see it as vague. I see it as very straightforward. There is created a full-time autonomous inmate disciplinary oversight board. The purpose of the board is to review the grant, denial, and removal of inmate sentence credits by a warden for good institutional behavior, or to determine whether sentence credits previously awarded should be removed for commission of a major infraction designated by the department as a Class A disciplinary offense, or for an inmate's refusal to participate in an assignment. I don't find that language confusing. For me, it spells out the scope. I do recognize it's difficult, and I think those who authored the legislation recognized it would be difficult and that it is a big data question. And we're not all big data experts, and that's understood. And in fact, when you look at any state entity, any state agency or board or commission, it's unusual for there to be a preponderance of big data experts on those boards. That's why those boards turn to consultants. They turn to a wide variety of techniques, such as inviting experts in who can help board members understand. And it is one of the reasons when we looked at the roles and responsibilities of board members, I was delighted to see that it included the assumption that we would actively engage in continued learning, that it wasn't assumed that we come to this knowing everything we would know, and that what we know at this point is enough, that we will continue to learn. And I would offer that we may find a path to bring more expertise in front of us that can provide us with putting our arms around the legislative scope of what our work is to do. And I will reserve my comments for the specificity of how to look at particular disciplinaries, because right now I'm just talking about in general, what's the scope? And so for me, the scope is sentence credits of all types, how they come to be, how they come not to be, because denied is in the statute. There are folks who aren't getting sentence credits. How does that come to be? And I will make one other point that was made not only in the ad hoc committee meetings leading up to the legislation, but also on the legislative floor. And that is that the Tennessee Department of Corrections has adopted, through programming in TOMAS, the automatic application of sentence credits, or certain types of sentence credits. And Lamberth specifically questioned, given the fact that the statute says sentence credits are not to be automatically awarded, how is it that it's programmed that they're awarded? That sounds automatic. And Jerry even alluded to it when he spoke about the behavioral credits, that TOMAS is dropping credits in. And that's not something that we're going to understand through just reviewing Class A disciplinaries. I'm not saying we shouldn't review Class A disciplinaries. I'm merely saying the scope is bigger and we potentially have to consider how to broaden our thoughts about how to actually meet and fulfill the expectations of this statute. Thank you.
I have a question. That was a lot.
Well, Vanessa, before you ask your question, I just want to be mindful. It's 10:50. So
Yeah, I
if
watched
we
the
wanna
clock,
take-
yeah. No,
Okay,
I
okay.
have it written down, I'm keeping track, we started at like 10:10. And I also wanna do this section, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Go ahead.
thank you for that. I have, like that, I'm having a little bit of an issue narrowing down what it is you think we're supposed to do. Like, I heard looking at sentence credits as a result of Eliza Fletcher. I heard the policy and the practice. I don't think it was the policy per se, I think it was the practice that allowed the failures. I heard opportunity to provide information to make all stakeholders better, to make all stakeholders make better decisions and how to not make the same decisions. And then I heard a whole soliloquy on big data. So I am gonna, because it's probably a reception thing, like I received it incorrectly or didn't receive everything that you put down. So I'm just, for myself, I'm gonna ask you for the Western Union Telegraph version of what it is you think we do here. Like bare bones, not if there not anything out here or the possibilities or the dreams or the hopes or the we coulds. It's the what is it we do right now? What is it we're doing?
I believe that this board was created to review sentence credits being awarded, sentence credits being denied, and sentence credits being withdrawn. That's the Western Union version.
Okay. So the bulk of what you had said was about the big data and collecting and analyzing and blah, blah, blah. That's not what you think our main mission is.
That is the only way you could review all of the sentence credits being awarded, all of the sentence credits being denied, and all of the sentence credits being removed.
Right, but we don't have that capability yet. So if we had to go to work tomorrow, what are we doing?
I would think that our mandate from day one has been to position ourselves to have the ability to do those things. I recognize we're starting year 2 and we're still trying to figure out how. And that's why I suggested that if the vision for the how is not within the board members, that we avail ourselves of consultants and other experts who could help the board have an understanding of how that could or would be accomplished.
Right, I heard all of that. Yeah, I get all of that, but we can't do that tomorrow. So what can we do? Like, so we've got.
I didn't understand that we had to answer the question. I thought you were asking us from each of us what we felt the scope of the board was. I didn't understand you were asking what we should do tomorrow.
Well, because I'm trying to get us all in a place where we understand when boots hit the ground tomorrow morning, like, let's just say tomorrow morning, boots hit the ground, what are we doing? And so far, Mike Dunn and Lee and Jerry and myself and Betsy, and I think it kind of goes in a like, well, you're the strongest, like in this view, and then kind of trickles down like less and less and less down the way. But we all are in agreement that reviewing disciplinaries comes first, reviewing disciplinary reports come first, and reviewing credits, that is something we need to address, and perhaps that means we bring in Baisden, maybe we need to look at that, figure out how. But all I'm hearing from you is the etherical, like, pipe dream that, well, we should be doing this. I know we can't do it, but we should be doing it. So that's what we can't do it today.
I understand.
We can't do it today, but we should be looking into it and making it possible. So, but what I've heard from the rest of the board is this is what we can do today, right? And we all feel that the can do today is our primary mission, our primary objective. There are other things that we also need to be doing, but they are on the outside of this. And also we don't really have a way to do them yet, but we want to look into it. We even want to task somebody to do it. So, but I'm not hearing that, like, you're in this part where everybody else is on the outside. That's what I'm hearing. And so I'm trying to understand, do you not, but like, I heard nothing about reviewing disciplinary reports.
I did mention that, but let me clarify something. The notion that our primary work is any one over the other is not a theoretical discussion. It's an absolute practical discussion. The notion that we are capable of doing one thing right now versus we may well be capable of doing 2 or 3 things right now is a practical discussion that we still haven't had yet. Because just as you have stated it, there's a belief that we have one primary task and anything else is secondary to it.
It's not, Mary, it's not that it's,
Could I
that's, no,
finish?
listen, no, it's not that it's secondary, Mary, it's that it has to be secondary right now, because we can't do it. What we can do is review cases and review disciplinary reports, and we need to get that done, because as you said, we're in year 2. Do we also need to do this other thing? We are all in agreement. Yes, we do, it's in the statute. But unless and until we have the ability to do it, we need, our main focus is this other thing. When Dunn comes in and says, I got it, I figured it out, right? Like, here it is, guys, and we go, oh my gosh, that's amazing, we can do it. Now we have 2 primary objectives, right? We do 2 at once, but we can't do that. And so I'm not saying that it's necessarily secondary forever. What I'm saying is what we can do right now is what we can do, and we need to work. To Michael Stahl's point, like, we are getting long in the tooth, right? And we need to have started work yesterday, right? We are way in it. And if we keep talking about well, we should be, and we could, and let's get this guy, and, you know, and I think those are things we need to explore because they're part of the statute. And we all agree that. But I'm not saying that this is our only objective. I'm saying this is what we can do now.
I will say if.
Could I finish my point?
Yeah.
I appreciate it. So 2 meetings ago, when I brought up this discussion about the sentence credits and how it could be practically pursued swiftly, you asked me to wait until the rest of the board members could catch up on understanding how that could be done. And so I would ask for each board member to be thinking about how that could be done in addition to what you are already thinking is within your grasp.
We are. We just discussed
So I would-
assigning Mr. I thought, oh, I'm sorry,
No.
that was a long pause. I thought you were done.
So I would like to understand where the thought process has gotten with regard to that, because now 2 meetings later, it's the same discussion about, well, that's hard to think about, that may not be something we can do.
Nobody said it's not something we could do. We literally are saying, Mr. Dunn or whoever, right? Look into it and get the answers on how to do it. We could do it, but we just can't do it today. And we need to do something today. And Mary, what I'm trying to pull out of you is, yes, I'm on board with reviewing disciplinary cases tomorrow. Like, that's what I'm trying to pull out of you, because that is what the rest of the board, well, and I'm trying to give you an opportunity to declare.
You're trying to give me an opportunity to be a what?
Go
Did you
ahead.
say you're trying to give me an opportunity to be a team player?
Yes. Like, I feel like you're fighting. The rest of us are all in agreement that we can do something tomorrow and we should do it tomorrow. And I'm trying really hard to hear you and understand where you're coming from. I'm taking notes and I'm listening with intention. And every single time I come back to we can review disciplinaries today. You know, Jerry has come up with these amazing documents that give us a lot of guidance on what these policies and procedures and statutes are. And we have gone and looked at the new Class A's, you know, Lee caught that. I think we're all as a board working together trying to get to this place. But yet every time I'm speaking, you keep coming back to the data. We need to pull the data. we need to hire a consultant, we need to do this other thing. And I can't, we have all very succinctly said, disciplinary reports, cases, that comes first. We absolutely have to look at this other thing. Nobody's saying not to. But I feel like your focus is on the other thing and not what we can do tomorrow.
I understand that you have a feeling about what you think, I think, but I want to be very clear that I am a team player on this board, and that just as I was asked to look at 2 facilities and provide those in a spreadsheet, I did exactly what I was asked to do. And so, yes, I do feel like I'm a team player. Just because I am offering an additional perspective should not be construed that I am in some way delaying or stalling
Nobody uses
any of the. I'm using.
Can I
the
point
word.
out also, when, I know you guys are talking, but
Listen, Mike, I'm sorry, but a lot was just said.
no,
And
I
would
get
like-
it. I'm gonna let you guys finish. I just want to point out that Quantel's on the call now too. So when we get a chance, we should hear from him as well.
Thank you.
So I think there's a couple of things we could do. We can continue the discussion, or we can let Quantel speak, or we could take a break. What does everyone think?
I don't know that I've been adequately allowed the time to respond to what's just been said about me.
Okay, well let's continue the discussion, and then we'll give Quantel a chance to talk, and then we'll take a break.
Thank you, Mike. I want to assure everybody, just bringing a different perspective doesn't make me not a team player. I am a team player. I'm invested in this board, the work of this board, and how each board member feels about the work of this board is important to me. Just because I have a perspective that may be different doesn't mean that I don't value your perspective and that I don't support what it is. And at the end of the day, whatever the vote is, whatever the motion is, and whatever the vote is, it is what it is, and we go about the business of doing whatever. But I'm not quite sure, apart from never voicing any different perspective, how I can convince any or all of you that I'm part of this team and that I care about this board and the work of this board.
That's good to hear. I'm glad.
Did you have some doubts?
No, I did. I'm
I
just
didn't
glad
feel
that,
that you did.
I'm glad that we're all on the same team.
Yes, sir.
And I have no problem with other opinion, you bringing other things. I guess, and I've talked to Michael, we've all talked about it. We're running I just feel that it's time for us to move on what we can move. And here's what I do know. If we start sending things to TDOC, we've accomplished a lot, because they're going to start talking. These people are looking at all these cases. I mean, I think it's going to be, it's just going to, I mean, immediate. I think we've already started. I mean, Jerry and I were talking about, and maybe it was us, maybe it was, and I'm sure it had a lot to do with Ms. Fletcher, but their A's used to be a few, and now,
There are a lot.
now it's like, what's not an A?
10 times, yeah.
I mean, they have really, I don't know if, and
I think it's all of the above, Lee.
I think something has to do with us. Like Tommy said, I think him and the other gentleman that were here, that's their job now, I guess, to look at these things coming through, where I don't guess they used to do that. I guess it was up to the warden, however it happened. I think, didn't he say that? Didn't Tommy say that that's all he focuses on now, is to review
And
those?
there's also another one of those, like the automatic, we were talking about automatic awarding of credits. When I was talking to Richard one time, he said there's one that was like an 8-day, it was something that was coming through and they caught it. And they've now changed it, that particular one is no longer automatic. Like
Right.
they're starting, and so I think you're right, like if we, just our mere existence is affecting change, right?
Right.
So I think when we find this stuff, I think we're gonna make a difference.
Yeah, and I think that's our goal, is
Yes.
to keep people that are misbehaving and gonna be detriment to society in prison
If you're
longer. That's
supposed
all
to
our
be
job
in-
really is, I
Yes,
think.
and when
Or
like
the
I
big
told
part of
Halsey,
it.
yeah, like I told Representative Halsey last week, if you're supposed to be in, period, right? Whatever that means.
And if you
You weren't
prove
supposed to
you've
get
not
credit.
been rehabilitated and all you do is fight and
You're not
destroy
gonna, you're gonna
things,
serve your whole
you're
sentence.
gonna do that when you get out.
That's
And
right.
our job is to make sure that TDOC is taking all their credit and they can't get out early.
Correct,
I
if you're
think that's
supposed to
one of our
be in,
big
be in.
So, yes,
I don't disagree with anybody. If Mary's done, I'd love to hear what Quantel.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just thinking,
I forgot.
He has a different perspective and
I'm
that's-
sorry, I forgot.
So Quantel, I don't know if you were here when we started the question, but it's the Western Union Telegraph, so shortest amount of words possible. What do you think our core responsibility is? Our core mission, our core, what are we doing? We wake up tomorrow, what is our job?
I believe in, I was under the impression that our job was to look at good time credits, add, remove, replace, just look at good time credits and see if he or she came into a correctional facility and actually experienced some form of correction. And we would just provide oversight and seeing as far as like, okay, this person has, i.e. going back to the young man that will be released on 8/28/24, he had almost 19-20 months of good time credit, and he had just 2 incidents in May last time we had our training, if you will. And I asked, like, so how did he get 19 months of good time credits with these infractions? And they could not answer that. So I believe, and I still believe that our job is to come together and say, is this good time? Was this rewarded? Was it earned? Has this person turned a cheek? So I believe our job is to look at good time credits, take some away, put some back. I don't think we're just here to keep people incarcerated. I believe we are called to provide oversight and to see, for example, I think just hearing and listening and the letters and inmates trying to reach out to us, I truly believe, and no one told me this, nor did I hear this from anyone, but I truly believe that the inmates are not, so to speak, so scared of this board as much more that rather they're happy about this board because they feel finally some accountability for this guard. Finally, someone else, because I it's hard to get rolled up, defend myself against the same system that wrote me up, if you will. So I believe our job is to provide oversight, meaning did this person earn this good time credit? Oh, we took their good time credit away. No, we believe it should go, their credit should come back. Was this person, should this person stay in jail? We believe so. Should this person be released? So I truly believe we should just share good time credits and see were they justified? Were they earned? And was their justification being added? Was their justification of being removed? That is my take. And I thought that's what our job is, but y'all feel free to enlighten me.
No, I think, no, that's like, I appreciate that, Quantel. That's the, rounded out with the passion of what we're supposed to be doing. Right?
Well, I mean,
no, you're fine.
I was just gonna say, the issue is, and that's what Mr. Dunn was talking about, having like an IT person do. If we dive into, you're talking about being in appeals court, I don't know if that's our job, Quantel. I mean, are you talking about inmates saying I didn't get what I deserved and them contacting us and us investigating their case? I mean, I understand you're, okay. I'm trying to.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Finish. No, finish. Because I want you to finish so I can properly respond. Go ahead.
No, I mean, I'm sitting here thinking that, gosh, I mean, from my understanding, there is a process that if they don't feel, I don't know, am I right? Does TDOC have a policy where if they think that they've gotten the raw end of it, that they can fill out forms and plead their case? I'm not, that's what Jerry and I were talking about that when we were talking about, are we going to be where all these inmates send us? I should have gotten them, I didn't get them. I mean, I'm just trying to figure out is that gonna be like a lot each month? I'm trying to figure out if we can, I look at our first thing to do. I'm trying to figure out how that's practical, or, I don't know, that's just my feeling. I don't know, I didn't see us as being a last resort if they don't feel like they got their credits. Maybe that is, I don't know.
No. Two things. I believe we're faced with a situation here, Brother Lee, where two things could be true at the same time. Now, just because I elaborated how I feel they see us doesn't mean that's in the statute or how we operate. I.e., for example, most of us have received mail from inmates. We got one guy that said, hey, can y'all look into this? I'm doing life without, I don't even get good time. I just don't want this on my record. So they don't understand who we are, what we're doing. I'm talking about how we could be perceived. So, no, I don't believe we are somewhat of a appeals court for the inmates, but I do believe our job is to look at the good times. So no, I don't believe we have the manpower, the resources to even think we are any form of an appellate court. But I will say, just from the letters in the beginning, what I received, that the letter, I don't know if y'all remember about the guy that was serving life and been there since the 80s. He just wanted something removed and wanted somebody to look into the case. So that's what I was saying from, like, that's how we're being viewed from inmates, as not so much that you're taking my time away, but you're providing oversight and accountability for this guard and for this prison.
So, Quantel, as you were speaking, I always hear the passion in your voice, right? And I think what you're talking about, and earlier I was talking about, so we have our core, right, which is reviewing disciplinary actions. And then as we move outwards, we have these other things. And some things are closer to the core, like the figuring out the credit side of it, right? The awarding, yes, right? Like when we might have to bring in a consultant or an IT person of some kind, right? So done, like I would really, when it's time, I would really like for him to take this, and I'm already talking like he's going to, but I think, Quantel, you're like that layer right outside of him that takes it like a step further in responding to maybe an inmate's request, right? Because it's in that same family of reviewing how the credit was awarded, or if it, right, like it's that same converse of what we're capable of doing right now, but it's that, I don't want to call it, it's the, like, I don't want to call it the feels good part of it, but it's the emotional piece. It is the emotional piece because it's the human piece. It's the human piece where you're dealing with actual inmates, right? And I think that is the next layer outside of that. So it's not something that we'll never look at or will ever be part of our purview, right? But it's that next piece to consider when we start to, as we're building the foundations of what we're capable of doing, right? We can do this now. Next, we're going to do this. Next, we're going to do this. Next, we're going to do this. Yeah, and I think you bring a good point, because that is the human element.
Madam Chair, I agree. And if that's not in our description, then I think we should go look back at what Mike Dunn created, those 4 things when it's saying holding accountability. Because if I read what Mike Dunn created and I interpreted how he intended, that's what it reads to me. That's what it feels like to me. So maybe we should revisit those 4 things that Mike Dunn created, because I know if I read that, it reads that this is oversight and accountability, not only for inmates, for this whole facility. And it says that to reassure the safety and accountability of inmates and police and correction officers. So maybe I'm coming from, for lack of better terms, the Bill of Rights that Mike Dunn created for TDOT and the inmates.
You know, well, that is on we're definitely going to review that whole document. I don't know if you were here for the discussion about it or not, but at the last meeting, but that is definitely up for review. But I really like that term you just used, Bill of Rights, right? And I think that creates a more seriousness to every word that's on that paper. Right? It makes it way more meaningful. It is almost like our Bill of Rights. So anything that's put down there.
I'm trying
Right.
to think practically how, would this be as we're going through disciplinaries, we see a guy, like I saw one that was an indecent, and they took 15 months from the guy, and I was like, wham, that's
Well,
a
maybe that
shot.
was one hell of an indecent
That's
exposure.
what I'm
I'm
saying.
just saying. I
Are we
don't know.
looking at those? Because I'm trying to think, or are we just taking letters in the mail? And I will say this, and I'll be point blank, the people that voted for this bill, you talk legislative intent, it had to do with keeping them in.
Not letting.
I would say 100% of them that voted, if you went to the state rep that voted for it, the 75, they'd say, we don't want another Liza Fletcher. But I understand what you're saying, the way they write the bill,
It gives us.
it does talk about, we can look and see if you're treating this person fairly, or is he been basically, maybe a guard's got a bad, got an issue with him. I mean, I guess the bill says that, but legislative intent, that was not their intent.
But it's
But it's in the bill.
yeah, it's a result of, right? Like, they may not have been their intent, but it's in there, right? And so,
Okay.
and how we choose to do it is how we choose to do it. And I think to Quantel, I don't foresee that being, what Quantel is talking about, I don't foresee that being an everybody responsibility, right? Unless something egregious really popped out for you, right?
I
That
was
you
just
saw.
trying to think out
But-
his IT person.
This is,
Oh,
How would you find that? I don't know where you would even.
Well, and that's where, that's the magic question, right? Go ahead, Quantel, sorry.
Man on man kind of stuff.
Quantel, I think wanted to.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm not in the room. I'm actually still on the road, so I know you guys can't. It's hard for me to just throw my hand up. Going back to Lee's point, Lee said he believes that people that voted for this bill was 100% keep them in. And now me being a team player is saying, what is the direction of the board? The direction of the board is, let's see if someone has earned. And when I want to clarify that, I don't believe our legislative body want to just keep people locked up. And I would say they want to keep people locked up who have not been reformed, who have not
Right.
learned from the error of their ways and turned around. So I want to ask, are we more so of looking at who needs to stay? I believe our job and our mission will be a whole lot easier if we looked and said, I don't believe this person earned this time. He or she should stay. And we cut and dry. We look at good time. We and that's what we do. That's in layman terms. That's actually what I believe a lot of us thought we would be doing. Getting on this board, you start hearing terms like corruption, stuff this, everything ain't what it seems. And I believe now we're like, so are we good time? Are we investigative? Or do we look at everything as a whole? So I really believe that we are called to look at good time, and those that have not earned that good time should stay in jail. I am with Brother Lee. I'm with the legislators that believe that. Now, are we supposed to go and investigate crooked officers? Is that in the statute? I don't know. So I'm all for saying, listen, let's break it back down and look at good time. And now I believe I've spoken too much, and now I'm gonna listen to you guys.
No. That you said it perfectly, Quantel, right? Break it back down, right? Like, because we don't know if we're supposed to do that other thing or how we would do that other thing, but let's look at good time. Break it back down, let's look at good time. And I think that brings you into the majority, right? Which says, right now we're gonna look at these disciplinary reports, right? And make sure that that was handled correctly. And then in the meantime, in the background, we're going to have somebody looking into the pieces that we don't have readily available to us right now, right? The bigger awarded, denied, withdrawn of good time credit, right? Where the awarding of credit, not just the removal, because we're looking at the disciplinary, all we see is removal, right? But we need to look at the awarding. That's in the statute, but we just don't have the ability to do that yet. So we go just cheat, what you said, we go break it back down and we're going to do this. But that doesn't mean we're not going to keep expanding every, like, layer by layer by layer by layer, right? Like, we are got a firm grasp of disciplinary reports. Now we're going to look at awarding of credit, right? Now we're going to look at these inmate letters, how do we handle that? Or, now we've come across, Lee has noticed it's the same correctional officer every single time at whatever facility, right? How are we gonna handle that? And we'll just keep adding a layer to layer to layer. But for today, we break it back down and do disciplinary reports. Because we can do that. We can. We could do that right now.
And let me say this one last thing, 2 seconds. I'm all a believer in reform. I'm hoping for reform and redemption. We're all fallen. And so I don't want to make it sound like I just burn them all. I'm not like that at all. I do believe that some can come through, hopefully more than others, and become better people and productive members of society. So I didn't want it to sound, I'm just saying when I've talked to either it be Randy and McNally or John Reagan, the two that I've talked to, their main focus was no more Liza Fletchers is what their main focus. And I know the way it's written, it's a little different, but that was their main focus. But
Yeah, no.
I just wanted you to know and everybody else to know, I do believe that, people can come from certain ways, change their heart, and they come out and they're better people.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I'm
100%.
gonna coin a phrase from once General Roderick, and my favorite general.
We know what.
We're gonna do the right thing for the right reasons every day. Whatever that means. Whatever that means. The right thing for the right reasons every day. And right now, we can do these disciplinary reports, so we're gonna do those to the best of our ability. Fair, impartial, justly. When we can get that next piece in, we're gonna do the same thing with that piece, and the next piece, and the next piece, and the next piece, and until there's nothing left for us to do, right? Or we've decided that's the extent of what we're doing, like we're done. This is our realm. But I'm just gonna say the right thing, right, for the right reasons every day. And with that, it is 11:23. Would we like to take a break or a lunch?
I just need
Go ahead. Sorry, Mr. Dunn has something to say.
I wanted to present my little Western Union
Okay.
too.
Oh, did we not do you?
No, ma'am.
Oh, man, you got 7 minutes.
That's all
No,
right.
6 minutes now. You got 6 minutes.
That's all right.
I kind of felt like we already knew yours.
No, that's okay. I've just spoken so much, I guess, sorry. I believe in exactly what the statute says. It's a full gamut, the good credits, the credits taken away. Are they being awarded properly? And is the recommendation for such appropriate? And until we have the tools to do that, we are limited to what we can do, which we should step on the accelerator for examining the logistics of every day going through the disciplinaries, because those are the ones that bubble to the surface. Those are the bad eggs that have done bad things. And those are the ones who should be getting good times taken away. However, from my own experience, I have seen them under the radar where they slide by. And that's where we do need extra tools to be able to look at things we should be looking at. And at the same time, we can hire someone like Don Basden, if you all are pleased with his proposal, and I think that's a wonderful idea, because once he is enacted, he can give us the tools to not only look at things that we can't look at yet, but he can refine how we're doing the disciplinary reports and make them easier as well through exception reports and easier queries to where all of our time is saved, no matter what we're looking at, whether it's good credits or bad credits. No, what I mean bad credits, credits taken away, things like he'll make every single one of our jobs, daily lives easier, and we'll get exception reports and daily whatevers or monthly whatevers. And then we can spend our collective minds deciding, is this right? Is this inmate's activity right? We recommend this, we recommend this. And when we have a monthly recommendation, we give it exactly at the direction of Representative Holsey, to Representative Holsey, to Senator Jackson, to the Lieutenant Governor and Speaker of the House, period. That's what we should be doing right now.
Wait,
I
no, I didn't follow. What do you want to give to Representative Holsey? And
Exactly what he asked for.
A
He
monthly
asked for a
recommendation
monthly
report.
whatever we find this month, at the end of the month, we report that to him, to Senator Jackson, to the Lieutenant Governor, and to the Speaker of the House. We don't report to TDOC.
No, we don't report to TDOC, and I don't think we submit a report.
I don't report to anyone.
We don't report to anyone, period.
Autonomous.
Yeah, autonomous. But I think,
I'm not saying
I
ask
thought you were
information.
gonna say like a monthly recommendation on how TDOC should get their crap
This
together.
is what we're finding, I think.
Our findings is what I mean.
I'm
I'm
not
not comfortable
comfortable
with that either.
Reporting to any individual, just like I wouldn't dream of saying every month we're gonna report something to the governor's office or to, like, I think we all come from
What do
different.
what do you think, I mean, do you see it?
I think,
If we're finding that
call us and
TDOC's
testify,
having this problem and you think we just keep it
maybe like
between
a
us and
yearly.
them?
No, I think we're,
In fact, I think it says in the statute we're supposed to issue it, but I am not comfortable that it's like we're partisan to a certain entity.
I feel like we're funneling information. It feels very, what's
Why
that?
don't we just put it on our website and then it's public?
That's fine.
Uh,
Yeah.
But I think before we do that, that was real cute, Mary. Before we do that, I think we ought to have a conversation with TDOC, right? I don't think we should, blindside them with any information. I think maybe we publish a month behind, right? So we say, here, TDOC, here's our findings, here's the errors that we found, blah, 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 blah. Then we publish to the website, right, for whoever to see, because it's public. And then it also gives TDOC 30 days to have a response, right, to fix it, right? And if they didn't, then they look real dumb, right? But it gives them an opportunity, because I don't want to create a gotcha every month with them where they're like, oh crap, we gotta watch the website. What did we do wrong this month? And now the whole world knows, right? And then we think we have a hard time now, we'd have a real hard time after that. So to build, just to maintain trust, listen, guys, we'll give you 30 days. We'll give it to you 30 days later, we're publishing it. So if you haven't fixed it, that's on you, right?
But I think
Yeah.
we should get into the work and see
I
what
think
we're
we
gonna
need to
find
get it
before we
figure it out.
what we find or what we do may alter all this.
Yeah. I mean, our job, I look at our goal is to make our fellow state employees at TDOC better.
Yes, I agree. At the end of the day, make everybody
And
better.
maybe we find something that's wrong and somebody is not working with TDOC anymore, and that's good too, if somebody
great, too.
doesn't need to be there working, so, yeah, let me ask you, could I make a motion to have Mr. Dunn and whoever he felt comfortable with to approach Don Baisden and ask for a proposal, and we will pay him his rate for up to 10 hours, which would be, and it might take him 4, hopefully he's considering that. And that would be my motion, and have that reported to us next month at the monthly meeting to have his proposal, and then we will put that onto the agenda to vote. And it might be something that we're not comfortable with, and we will continue from there and look for someone else. I think that's fair to say.
I think that's a great idea.
Is that a motion?
Let's hold it. It's 11:30. We've been working for an hour and 20.
I was fixing a second.
Well, but we're gonna have a debate and discuss, and then it's gonna be 2:30 before we decide on something. So let's go ahead and take unless anybody really needs lunch right now, let's take a 10-minute, and then you make your motion, and we'll discuss the particulars and amend, we'll do everything.
So I ask just a housekeeping, are we just we're gonna have a working lunch, right?
We
We're not
can,
gonna have like a big lunch break.
I mean, we can decide that.
I mean, unless,
Yeah.
like we've been doing. Like just
Okay,
go
well
get
then,
some player,
okay, then do we want to go
I mean,
take 10
whatever.
minutes to get something to eat now?
Yeah.
And then that way, and then when we come back, we'll just push through the rest of the afternoon?
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Lindsay and Mr. Stahl, we're gonna take a 10-minute recess, come back, and it'll be working lunch. We're gonna work through lunch.
Is
Good deal.
10 minutes enough time? Do you want to make it 20 so that people can wait in line and get their stuff and not feel rushed?
You got a long line in your kitchen? Like somewhere, like is there a line in the refrigerator?
Well, I just know sometimes we say be back in 10 minutes and then people are filtering in 15, 12, 15,
Okay, be
whatever.
back at 11:50. Be back at 11:50. Does that sound good? Is that okay for you, Quantel?
Yes, ma'am.
Thanks, buddy. All right, recess till 11:50.
Mary, are you going to stop the recording? Oh, you're muted. The room's muted.
She said she would stop it.
Okay, just making sure. Thanks.
Just to be able to, I don't know.
Michael Quantel, are you with us?
I'm sorry.
I don't.
Yeah, yeah, I'm here.
Yes, I'm here.
You know us, we talked about going to get food and having a working lunch, and we came back and we just ate our lunch. It didn't work.
We're ready.
So we're gonna call us back in session at noon, at 12. And Mr. Stahl, if you want to direct us in whatever direction we need to be going in.
Yeah, Mary, were you gonna restart the recording?
I believe that it remained on and that Vanessa muted the mics here.
Okay,
Yeah, the IT
Okay.
guy said to just go ahead and mute it, not to stop the recording. And muting
Okay,
is not
that
recording anything. Yeah, so that's what we did.
all right. Well, I think right before we took our break, Lee was about to make a motion, and I will let him renew that, I think.
I would like, and then we can have, well, I would like to make the motion that Mike Dillon chair up a committee of who wants to be on it, or who he picks, to approach Mr. Baisden with up to 10 hours of time, of his time, for a proposal that he will bring back at our next public meeting in August.
Second.
Yeah, second. Do
Okay.
we discuss? Anybody have any comments about that?
I'd like to say, as far as discussion, you will, let's say, I don't know who wants to, let's say Mary or me and Jerry, and we get together, you'll write it out and then be in contact with him and say, this is what we're looking to do, and, you know, bring it. I mean, how do you envision what you're gonna ask him?
I'm thinking I'll go strictly by the statute. This is what we're called to look for. These are the only tools we have right now. We need tools to do this as well. In your own words, can you design something that would get us these things right here and all this, whatever those things are that we come up with as a committee? And let him respond back with specifics on how he can get us whatever we need.
Okay. Secondly, I came up with 10 hours just because I don't want to short the guy. I want it to be done properly, his proposal, what he can do. Does anyone have comments on that? I mean, I don't want this to blow up the vote. Do you think, are you comfortable with 10? Up to 10?
Right, yeah, up to 10, right?
Do you
Yeah.
think that's doable?
Sure, and he didn't have to come up with the concrete blueprints and graphs and everything. He just say, yes, I can do this, 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 and this by way of this. And we'll have to trust him with his expertise because obviously he's qualified.
Right.
And I sincerely believe that we'll never find someone with his experience that can be hired immediately.
Okay.
That's the key to me.
Well, that's,
I'd like to add, if you're gonna add someone to your process, Dr. Carpos understands the analytical part of it. Because if it was, I would be totally helpless if I was trying to figure out what is on there.
No.
You're kind of IT guru.
No, it doesn't, we don't have to understand it. That's why we need Baisden. We just need to know what we want.
Here's what we
Right.
want.
That's it. And so
Understand
any
that.
one of us could do that. Yeah, no, I don't think there has to be we don't have to understand the algorithms.
and it might take him 2 hours. I don't want him to go,
I
I
have
can't
no
do it.
Up
in that
to
amount
10
of time.
Up to 10 hours. We're not gonna pay you for any more than 10 hours. So what can you do for 10?
That's
No, I agree. I think that's great. Anybody else?
Do we give them a deadline? Timeframe?
Ooh, yeah.
Just
I'd like to have it proposed, when we have a proposal
By our
for our
August
next
meeting.
August meeting.
Okay, so
I
it'll
know
be,
it's 3 weeks, but I would think,
I would think so.
I mean, just a proposal.
yeah.
It's just a proposal, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm gonna move to amend the motion to add a deadline, the August public meeting.
Let me look up the date.
Yes, I did.
Yes.
Or do we have a
Thank
date
you.
for that?
It'd be the
Second Wednesday?
Yeah, do we know what that means? I can't get my count. I can't get anything on my phone to work in here.
It's the 14th.
Okay, August 14th.
Yes, ma'am.
With the deadline of August 14th.
Mary, and I thought of you for this, but I never want to volunteer somebody for something.
Oh, I'm always willing to help.
Okay.
Sure, absolutely.
I know, but I never want to presume, like, hey, you're gonna do, I don't want to do it.
I love you.
You're an expert field anyway.
Absolutely. I hope that y'all can come up with something to talk with them about. And I don't know if this needs to, if it'll be like a FaceTime or a Zoom call or however you want to contact them. Really,
So-
that's understood.
Do it somehow.
The motion on the floor is that Mike Dunn head up a subcommittee to elicit Don Baisden to come up with a proposal on how to solve the second half of the statute, right? With a deadline of August 14th. That's the motion on the floor? Yes.
And up to 10 hours.
You can't see me. I'm staring at the screen, Michael Stahl, waiting on you. I think debate and discuss is done.
Okay, so did we change it, or are we keeping that motion as Lee's motion and you seconded it, Vanessa?
Well, I motioned to amend it to August 14th,
Okay,
but I didn't get a second.
and do we have a second for that?
Just got a second. So the amended
Wait,
motion on.
I can't hear. So did someone second that amended motion?
I did.
Okay. Okay, great. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Okay. And Quantel, just to be clear, did you say aye?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Okay, so the motion passes. Mike Dunn, I'll get with you offline if you need any help figuring out some of that stuff. And I think that moves us forward in a positive direction.
Yeah, and also, Mr. Dunn, if you could, when you speak with Mr. Baisden, if you could just I hate to be the Debbie Downer when we're presenting this, but like, make sure he understands that this is for a proposal, that this is not a job offer,
Absolutely.
right? Like, so maybe he wants to use all 10 of those hours. I don't know. But just so that we're clear, like, this is just, we want to see if you can do this. We're gonna pay you, but we want to see what can you do, and then we'll go from there. So this is not an official, like, we're hiring you yet.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
By the way, just point of order question, was he notified after our last meeting of anything?
Yes.
We do, oh,
Okay, thank you, Michael.
Yeah, I told him, I believe he watched the meeting also, but I called him afterwards and spoke with him and told him about the vote that we had, that we expected to have the need for a IT consultant, but we hadn't yet determined what that was going to look like or who that was going to be with any certainty. But we were still discussing the issue early this week, and we would get back to him on when we knew more. So he's aware that we're still discussing the issue, and I think he anticipates, just what we're talking about here, maybe being notified of where he falls in the process, if anywhere, where we are in the process, all that.
Good deal, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, that's really good. So I think I'd like to close up the first item on the agenda if everybody's comfortable with that, and just kind of want to wrap it up with a nice little bow. And I think going by the statute, we've determined that there's 2 sections that are going to be part of the board's overall process, but we're going to prioritize the review of the incidents currently while we examine our ability to facilitate and understand how the board could work to fulfill the rest of the statute. Now, the only issues that are kind of outstanding with that is, I know Mike had proposed his 4 sort of guiding questions. Mike, are you comfortable with where we're at on our overall process and how that fits into the questions you posed, or is there anything specific that you still want to talk about, or can we move on to the next agenda, which is the incidents and reviewing those?
Yes, sir. I think logistically and practically, I know everyone is in a hurry to get something down on paper as far as productivity, and I'm in agreement with that. But at the same time, we could also, without any additional queries, establish a relationship with local institution investigators at the facilities, because they can feed us intel on what we cannot see right now. Because there are incidents involving credit that exist that are underneath our radar that they know of. And at the same time, they could be feeding us while we're looking at the disciplinaries that we have at hand. We could do both. One vastly outweighs the other, obviously, because they're right in front of us with the disciplinary reports. But at the same time, and I believe this is crucial, it's not that it would take a while or take a bunch, but for those, if there's anyone here that doesn't understand how the inside of a facility works, it is crucial that we understand how the inside of a facility works, so we understand what we're looking at when we read a disciplinary report. That was the idea behind a site visit, and to establish a rapport with an institution investigator or a warden himself. So yes, I believe we should step on the accelerator with looking at the disciplinary reports and seeing incorrect actions. Why wasn't this done in addition to this? Whatever we find in these reports. But at the same time, we do have the ability to start looking at other things without a query. It's not as productive, but we could.
Would doing that fall under the first part of the statute or the second part of the statute?
First part.
The first part.
Because there are inmates who commit bad acts that are charged with a disciplinary, but their disciplinary falls through a loophole and never gets to a hearing. And those are the ones that are swept under the rug, but they still exist in a paper file. And the institutional investigator would know about it when we would not.
Well, I agree that we can simultaneously work on some different things. All I need to know from the rest of the board is does everybody consider that a role and responsibility of the board? And if so, then we can start making plans on how to do that, how to contact facility investigators and how to gather some of that information so that we can do that. If I have the go ahead from the rest of the board and we feel like that falls under our purview, then we can certainly do that simultaneous to the reviewing of incidents. Would everybody feel comfortable with doing that, starting to gather some of that information?
Are we talking about like a form letter to investigators in each prison? Hey, we're the inmate disciplinary board. Feel free to contact. I mean, is it something that simple? Is that what we're talking about doing?
It could be a phone call. It could be a Zoom call. It could be a letter. It could be an email. It could be
And say what?
you would like. I'd craft it together for y'all and see if you approve it.
No, but I mean, like, what's the general, like, if you have any problems, let us know. Or just to let them know we're out.
Yeah, well, I guess.
Well, what if we did a Zoom with everybody, invited every warden? And did a Zoom?
It's the institution investigator, because the institution investigator.
Well, okay,
does
if
not
I
work
give
for
us,
the board.
okay, but what if we
That's
did
true.
to start? Like, if we invited every institutional investigator and every warden, right? Like, let's do both, right? And let's just say, hey, this is who we are, this is what we're doing, like, and do just like a panel something, right, with us.
Just to introduce
Like,
ourselves.
introduce ourselves, this is what we're here, this is what you can expect. Nobody's saying I'm coming to your facility next month, but I might be, right? Like, this is what we plan on doing, just be on the lookout for that. And this is what we're here, instead of then going into each facility and, right, but could we not do that? Like, just to get started?
You could.
Okay.
You could.
I
Yes,
have
sir.
a question.
Yes, sir.
The cases you're talking about, are those the ones that we see when we're going through all the disciplinary acts that says investigation pending, and it never gives any?
Very few, I would say, are, because they won't make ETOMAS. They get,
Now, is the investigator have this in a file or are they gotten?
there's a paper initiation to everything.
Okay.
And unless there's really something wrong, that paper's there. We can't see it.
So we're not accusing anybody, we're basically saying
We are oversight.
we're oversight. If there's ever anything we can do for you or any concerns you want to, I think it could be something where we're not accusing
No, not at all.
all of them being
And
crooks
this
over
brings
there.
to light what Quantel was addressing, good things and bad things. This brings to light incidents where an inmate's getting harshly mistreated or something he's done being swept under the rug. That exists.
Do you think that institutional investigators are frustrated that sometimes so they don't work for TDOC, they are.
They work for TDOC. The structure umbrella is this. Every warden is the king of his castle, okay? But an institutional investigator is implanted at every facility. That institutional investigator works for the Office of Investigation and Conduct. That's the investigative branch inside TDOC. Used to be separate, but they maneuvered it over under an assistant warden now. Used to answer directly straight to the commissioner. Excuse me, assistant commissioner, I misspoke. But that institutional investigator does not work for the warden. And they are supposed to be, in a way, oversight at the facility. They are the ones that receive the tips from the inmates. They're the ones that receive all the letters. They're the ones that receive the directives. That they're in the center of what's going on, and every single one of them are different, and every single culture at the facilities are different. If you want to know what's going on, get with the institutional investigator. Save you a lot of trouble.
So can I clarify? This would be supporting what language in the statute? What would we be trying, if someone were to say, yeah, absolutely, you should be talking to the investigators because it is supportive of what portion of the goal or responsibility of the board?
The disciplinary reports. If we're saying, and this is what I know that we're saying, that the primary concern is organized around the incidents and disciplinary reports, and that those are within reach, this is additional information. So we're in agreement that the disciplinary incident reports are something more attainable tomorrow to be able to look at. But in addition to what's in Thomas, Thomas tells part of the story. And if I hear Mr. Dunn correctly, he's suggesting that we learn more of the story by looking beyond Thomas into the investigator files. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Mr.
It's a
Dunn?
tool we have. When we go through these disciplinary reports and we find these, this doesn't look right, this doesn't look right, there's only so much we're going to learn from you, Thomas. That's when we can call our short list of institutional investigators. Hey, we found this. What do you know about this? Can you scan and send me the file on this?
Right. I understand it. I mean, I understand what
You're
you're
only
saying. That
gonna
was
get
part of
a
our,
better, absolutely.
I think that'll be part of our procedure when we find something that all of it, or however we decide to vote on that. If it's a majority, think ones that we contact and we want more information, or if it's just one person's got a problem. See, I mean, that's another thing we
Yes.
need to discuss.
And they could add to what we've already found, or they can supply us stuff that's underneath the radar that we're supposed to be able to weed out.
No, I thought, well, that's a whole other discussion. Because, I mean, I understood it that if we find a problem case, we're going to have a form that we hadn't even talked about yet, that Michael will send to TDOC, and then is anybody in discussion on, or agreement of this? Or have you thought about, like, when we do find problems?
How are we gonna handle it?
What's the next step? I mean, do we send it to a certain person at TDOC and say, we want this, we want this incident, we want this inmate's file, and then they scan it and send it back to Michael, who sends it out? I mean, a
I
big
mean,
part
in
of what we're
theory,
gonna
I would
have to
hope
do.
they work with us and provide us. Now, I know there's been some issues with that, just getting
Little things.
to here.
Yeah.
So I would ask Michael and Vanessa, because they're the ones that have been handling it, but I would hope we could just pick up the phone or send an email and say, we need this, or.
For this incident in this prison and hope that it's timely.
Well, and I think that's something that either Michael or myself can go to Richard Muckle, right? Everything has to, as per the commissioner, everything has to go through Richard. So I would ask him, right, like, when this happens, who do you want us to email? Period, right? Who do we ask? When we decide something's at issue and we need more information, and since you are the keepers of that information, who are we asking? And then that's the process. I think that that's probably gonna be the best way to do it. And then he'll give me, whether it's Tommy or it's somebody else, right? So you're gonna email, and then we go from there, right?
And
From
And-
sorry, go ahead.
And if we don't get the information in a timely manner, there's a monthly report that's gonna go out, right? That's gonna say issue with TDOC, receive no information, no further information provided by TD, or however we word it, where we can always, catch them on the tail end. And so maybe next time it lights a little fire under their tissue, but,
Right.
yeah, no, we can have, I think there's a way to email and get it in a timely manner and hold people accountable if they don't.
And Commissioner Strada, when we met with him, asked that any request we do is going to be in a written form instead of a phone call. He said that way we've got historical data that
Right.
is received,
Mhm.
and this is our answer, so there's no question.
There's no question, right? And I will pose the question to Richard Muckle, right? Tell me, like, when we figure out what that's gonna look like, right? Then when we have an issue with this and we need X, who do I ask for that?
Right.
Who am I emailing, right?
Getting back to Mr. Dunn, are you saying that would that be appropriate, a form letter we find out all the investigators in each prison and send them a personal letter saying, we're here, if you ever have any issues, feel free to contact us? I mean, I think that's simple
Oh,
enough.
that'd be great.
We might not ever hear from them. Maybe they're nervous or for whatever reason.
Or they don't care.
They don't have any problems.
I hope, and I can only hope, that the answers would be the same, but when we want information from a paper file, it will be the institutional investigator that has access to it, and it's probably in their office, most of it. If we get an answer back from up top, how they want us to proceed, I hope they tell us to reach out to an institutional investigator, because that's where it's going to be.
Well, and I agree with you.
I
I think there's another level to this though, right? Like, let's say for ease of use, so we're not emailing every institution, right? Then we'll just use Tommy as the example, right? We email Tommy. And then Tommy goes to Northwest and gets just there's another level of accountability, right? Because from what I understand, each investigator has been doing things differently and storing things differently. And they've had a hard time even themselves, TDOC, when they're needing information, having a hard time getting that information because everybody's doing things differently. So I think, like, I just feel like if we're funneling through TDOC to the that puts them more in the know. Do you see what I'm saying? I feel like if we start you're gonna ask the investigator for something and they're not gonna have everything that they're supposed to have, or they can't find something, or they didn't do it all, or whatever it is, right? And then we're gonna have to go to TDOC and be like, this guy sucks, right? He's not doing his job. Is that something that you'd be prepared to do? I mean, I'm sure there are some out there that, I'm sure there's lots of great ones. Most investigators at that level, right, whatever agency they're with, are usually pretty good. But there's also there's always a few outliers. So is that something that you're prepared to do?
We should be prepared to do anything like that, but
Okay.
what I've seen is the institutional investigators at the facilities were the ones in the know.
Right, they're always in the know. It's the record keeping that is lacking.
Yes.
Yes.
I understand what you're saying, and they each have a staff. and their staff works for the warden, even though they do not. So it would always come down to the specific relationship between the investigator and the warden.
Right. I see,
It's different every facility,
I see.
and that's what I saw as a result of that.
Totally
But-
picking up what you're putting down, totally picking it up. Yep.
So
Go.
what is your, where do you think we go to move forward? How about Michael? What do you think? I mean, is there something you would recommend or?
No, I mean, I think, this, we can flesh this out more in the next agenda item is what I'm understanding. And I just want to, I think that we are in a good spot when it comes down to, and I want everyone to feel like we're in a good spot and everybody's on the same page, that we have two mission goals. And the priority one, the first one, is to review the incidents as they arise in Thomas now, going back to January, all that kind of stuff. That's the priority, and that's the primary goal. That's gonna do a lot of what we need to do in terms of public safety. And then the secondary goal is going to include reviewing other areas of interest regarding good time credits, the granting of good time credits, the taking away, and we're going to utilize certain tools to do that haven't yet been created. So that's a process, and that process is ongoing. And while that process is happening simultaneously, we're going to prioritize our daily work for the review of the incidents. And if we can agree that those two things are what we're going to be working on, then we can go into how we're going to accomplish those things. So we've attacked that second thing quite a bit, and we've done a great job of that by saying, all right, let's engage with a consultant on how he can help us and he can frame accomplishing that second mission. And now it seems like we're getting into, okay, exactly how are we going to do that priority mission, that first mission of reviewing the incidents. We're going to, and that's, to me, that's that second agenda item. And we talk about how we're going to review the incident, what happens after the incident gets reviewed and we want more information, who we're going to engage, how we're going to engage with them, what happens when after we've engaged with them and we aren't satisfied with their answers, do we re-engage with them on our recommendations, do we take it a step further, whatever. So it sounds to me like we're transitioning into that agenda item, and I just want to put a bow on that first agenda item and say, yes, those are the two things that the board is going to try and do. We're going to try and consider and look at the denial and awarding of good time credits, and we're going to review incidents for propriety with TDOC policy and statutory policy when it comes to incidents that have led to good time credits being taken away. And we're gonna focus on that first piece because we've kind of dealt with that second piece by engaging with Mr. Baisden. So if everybody's good with that, I think we can positively say we've answered the question, what are the two things that we're doing?
Yes, yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay, great. So now to Mike's point, now we're getting into, okay, well, how are we going to do it? How are we going to review the incidents? What are we looking for? And then when we need more information that isn't in Thomas, where are we going to get it from? Who are we going to talk to? All of that stuff. So I think that's a perfect segue into that conversation. And if we can take it step by step, if we can say, okay, so the first step is reviewing the incidents. And we're prepared to do that because we've put together a list of all the incidents in the facilities up to today's date. And now, how are we going to go through and review those incidents? Which ones are going to review? Who's going to do the reviewing? How are we going to set that procedure? Then after we've reviewed it, what comes next? Who do we talk to? Institutional investigators, wardens, whoever. So I think maybe what we can do is, I know Jerry and Lee have thought about this quite a bit, and I think they can take the lead on helping us put our arms around the steps that they see starting right now into tomorrow, into Wednesday, whatever, on how we can review the incidents, what we need to be looking for, and where we go from here. So do you guys want to talk a little bit about the things that you've thought about along those lines?
Yes, yeah.
You go ahead, Jerry.
I'd like to, I'm gonna send everybody an email just with kind of some briefs that I just sit down and try to put together some thoughts, trying to simplify their sentence reduction process and disciplinary.
Do you want us to open the disciplinary guidelines document? Or which one?
The one that is disciplinary, there's one that's disciplinary punishment guidelines. And then there's the Class A disciplinary offenses. The Class A disciplinary offenses are just the up-to-date by their new code and then adding in the old code with a brief description of exactly what the code is. And it's actually ends up being, with all the revisions they've done, there are 26 Class A infractions now.
Have you sent that just now, Jerry?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I've not received it yet, so I was.
Jerry, I was gonna say, I think 11, that's a typo, you've got DPO twice. You talking about DRS? I see we see a lot of DRSs, I'm sure. See number 11? It's DPO.
Yeah, it's DRS.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're gonna see what you see. I haven't seen a DPO yet. I've seen DSO and DRS, but the new code is DPO. Right? You saw DRSs and DSOs on
Yes,
the
sir.
other.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
The first code is the newest, and then the ones that are multiple.
So that should say DSO and DRS.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've changed it on mine.
Decent. T. Okay.
So are you saying to add DRS to number 11?
Yes, ma'am, instead of two DPIs.
And when we went in it, when you get into it, it'll say DPO, right? But it's DRS.
It'll say
As you're
DRS on
looking
the
for it.
incident, but on the.
You're talking about the front page.
Yeah, when they go to the disciplinary, the codes are right, the incidents are wrong.
Gotcha. Great.
I'm ready, Jerry.
Thanks, Jerry.
Oh, you're just gonna, oh, even better. Thank you, sir.
Did you get it? No, it's just not.
We'll take turns. We'll share. Because Betsy will be next.
Just,
I'm just restarted.
It went to Mike M.
Yeah.
Dunn. Mike M. Dunn, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Mike dot M. dot, yeah, that's
It's
what
just,
we
it's just not coming through, I don't know why.
Are you on the state network?
Yes, sir.
You know what, there's not a dot between the Mike and the M, should there be?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I think that's the problem.
Mike dot M.
It says
Okay.
Mike space M. dot Dunn, and I think it needs to say Mike dot M. dot Dunn. So let me forward it to you.
Thank you.
Sure.
It's funny, my middle initial's A, but they
Mhm.
stick out an M.
thank you, Jerry. It's easy.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
He's
I've
amazing.
seen them all.
Let me know if you got that.
I actually saw a homicide, that's the only one I've seen, was one.
Yeah, you're actually DO 1001 or 10,000.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'll just restart this again. I'll get
What
out
is
of
your
it.
number? 7?
06.
Okay.
I think Betsy's 07.
Yeah, they're going alphabetical, okay.
right.
Mine's all fine.
Cool. Okay. Nothing. It's crazy. What? Don't wait on me.
Do you want them to go to a different account?
Well, send it to trydunvice@gmail.com.
I have that one stored too.
That used to be the email I was using.
He's trying to get all this stuff you did. That's it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Came through on my phone. I'll just look at it on my phone.
Well, try clicking on like drafts and then going back to inbox.
Has anybody got a thumb
Yeah, because
drive?
sometimes I have to
I
do
don't
that.
have one.
Yeah, I did that. Did sent and outbox and
Do you have a
drafts.
thumb
and
drive?
I tried everything.
Anybody got a thumb drive? Copy it and hand it to you. You got one?
Didn't remember.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't have one with me either.
That's all right.
Is you still there, Quantel? Yes, he is.
Yes, sir.
Quantel, did you get the email or are you driving?
Driving, and I would check, but I'll in the law.
Don't,
No,
don't do that. Don't do that. Nuh-uh. We like you too much. Please don't do that.
Mike Stahl, did you receive the email?
Junk file? Did it go to junk?
Yes, I've got it.
Well, he said he got it on his phone. I mean, it went through. For some reason, it's just computer's not updated.
Did you restart it after the new CrowdStrike?
I did.
Okay. Did you change your password?
Didn't do that.
That may be why.
Right.
Yeah, so, go to your icon.
Yeah, you don't have access to anything anymore.
And change your password.
Those make sense.
Mhm.
If you looked at the disciplinary punishment guidelines. Which I just tried to simplify what they had in the statute.
It's not being very friendly today. I even did the simple control, something to change the password. It says
Okay.
configuration information cannot be read from the domain controller. That's crazy.
Okay, so just log in the way you have been. Yeah, oh, yeah.
Getting there.
We're getting
Listen,
there.
I only gave my mom a couple $100 for the day.
Okay, now, we're getting there. We're getting
The
there.
longer we go.
Okay. And you did the restart already,
I
previous.
pulled out, like, you're not the only one that carries cash. I just don't
And it's not
carry it
allowing
on
you
these
to
things.
change.
I pulled up from the door, right? It had no shoes looking at me.
And your caps, all caps aren't on.
Correct.
Okay.
Which tomorrow, I can stay at the hotel.
Tomorrow they'll have the hotel I hang out at, yeah. Yeah, because I'll just ride with one of y'all.
Yeah.
Tomorrow I'm gonna wear the same jeans and the same Birkenstocks, just so you know.
are.
I'm gonna wear a different shirt.
We'll come in a Hawaiian shirt.
Congratulations.
Smart casual.
Yeah, I'm not gonna probably wear a coat tomorrow.
Are you on the state network?
Like you
All
could
right.
just wear your.
I want to
Don't
set
you
the
usually
first
wear
one, just
tennis
unplug
shoes?
that.
You
I
have,
did this.
yeah.
I can, yeah, I probably will.
But see, the difference is that men's business wear is so much more comfortable than women's.
Without a doubt.
Dress slacks for men, it's like wearing
Let's just check your
pajamas. They're
connection.
lovely. For us, not so much. We haven't done anything. John has had issues getting the documents, so we're working on that.
Who?
Mike does.
Maybe just.
Do you have a thumb drive?
That one.
Because I was gonna, I'm sure you have a thumb
That could be, you know, Mike, this could be something that Mr. Hayes can,
In the first calendar year of tourism behavior credits.
What if
They
I
can give us an
did?
exception report, they can kick out the ones that aren't.
That it's
Mine
money,
do that.
money gets extra aid, so it's their first year.
You can have every single one of our slices.
Right.
Share.
okay. So you've got, that is for when we're looking, that's, what page is that on? Disciplinary or punishment guidelines? Okay.
Are these Jerry's documents? But they didn't come up on his email?
No, ma'am. Did they come up on ours yet? I'm restarting everything.
On my phone, at least.
There, what if I just did that?
That'd be awesomeness.
Okay, all right.
Oh. Oh, because it's changed. And is there not a way to? How do I make it full screen?
Do a quick on screen.
Okay.
So where do you want me to go? Just right here?
Where do you all want to start?
Did we want to go over this, or is this something for people to read?
It's, what I did is basically, which the one that's on the screen now, the sentence credits administrative procedures.
Uh-huh.
I went through the TDOC policies, the 502.2 and 502.5 and the 505.1, which 505.1 is actually the 6th page out of the inmate handbook that explains to them how they get their program days and behavioral days. And it also, as you go down through it, it also explains to them if they have any questions, the procedure, how to petition the Department of Corrections and the Office of Counsel to receive information back if you did not receive your good days in the way you thought you did. And that's by their policy. And then the second part of it is just basically the TCA code, just the main parts that deal with what we're dealing with is how they receive their credit days and program days. And I don't think I went into, now that the the legislature has changed it where even if you're pretrial, you mandatorily get 8 good credit days pretrial. The only way the sheriff can keep you from getting that is send in a letter with the inmate to TDOC that says you were not a good inmate, and then it's up to TDOC to take those, but they automatically give them 8 good behavior days per month pretrial, or per 30 days.
Right. And as we go along, we'll have this memorized and you'll know what's, this will become second nature. Do you,
And the last thing is they can't, if they're in maximum security or segregation, they don't receive any credits.
so when they're in segregation after they've,
If they have been through disciplinary hearings and according to their policies, like the first offense can be up to 10 days, second offense up to 20, the maximum 30 days segregation.
Right.
If you're in segregation, you cannot receive any behavioral credits. You're locked down.
how does that work logistically if you got 10 days of segregation?
Then
So you're saying if you're, when they give you your days each month, I guess they're given differently to when you come into prison, right? So if it falls in that 10 days, you don't get them that month? Is that what you're saying? I don't understand how it's practical.
right, which if they've had a disciplinary act and they receive segregation,
Okay. they
by
won't
their
get it for
rules,
30.
they couldn't get
Gotcha.
any credit for the
Okay,
next
for the
30 days.
30. Okay, I got you. Okay. And then we got the offenses. And then I guess it's the first one. If you scroll down,
Disciplinary
the
punishment.
little box. Are you looking at the box, disciplinary punishment guidelines, everybody?
Yeah, and
Guidelines
if you
document.
go all the way to the bottom, I just put it in black and white what the box says for the class A's.
Oh, okay.
So now we're in the first document?
We're on, disciplinary guidelines document.
So you're saying the final page
The final page
is a
of that,
summary of what's in the grid?
what's in the grid, instead of having to do
Thank
the
you.
cross lines and.
Because the B's and C's
B's
are
and
not
C's.
our, are not our.
You got it? Okay.
Down at the bottom. That's fascinating. So 2 or more, they can still not take any credits from you.
Correct.
I did not realize. I wonder how about if we move to 3 or more? Do we get into those?
Well, that is kind of spelled out in,
Oh, it says 2 or more. What am I saying? Lee? Come on.
in.
So they don't have to take time ever.
Right. It is not mandatory, but in their guidelines, it says that if you commit like an assault that requires medical attention at the hospital or disfigurement, then you should, if they normally did, say, 3 months of extraction of good time, then if there is physical impairment that caused bodily injury that needed treatment, you should get a higher sentence.
Right.
And where is that on this doc?
It's in the,
Is it on the other document or this
no,
one?
it's on this one, the disciplinary punishment guidelines. It's, I guess, on the second page, third paragraph,
Yes.
right below the,
If a guy's
the
got
Gosier
4
clause.
A's and nobody's ever taken time from him, he's not learning anything.
It's gonna be like a pot of hot water. We're gonna see bubbles pop up,
Yeah.
and whatever bubble pops up, we're on it. We're gonna But it'll just show its face after a while.
Infraction, it causes serious bodily injury, the warden can add 3 to 5 years
So
to it.
this is adjusting the release eligibility date. It doesn't actually change the sentence. It's adjustment of the release eligibility date.
Right. But it could add, if it's a 20-year sentence, they actually could end up serving 21 years.
Bless you.
They can get it, because it's technically, they committed a crime, and most of the DAs don't take and prosecute a lot of the actions in the prisons. Right. Unless it's a homicide.
Does it say somewhere that is this the part? Extended to the sentence expiration date, which is less? Is that the part you mean?
It would be the 3rd paragraph on page 2, when an inmate is found guilty of a Class A disciplinary assault offense that results in physical injury. And the paragraph above it is basically what they put in for Nikki Gozier's case.
Red date's extended 2 years. 5 years shall be added when serious bodily injury resulted.
Yes.
Is it or release eligibility date shall be extended to the sentence expiration date? But that doesn't indicate that they're extending the sentence expiration date.
Right. But I've seen where they actually have in there, a couple of them that I've looked at, to the 2 assistant DAs. Do we have Class A X felonies anymore? That's been done away with.
Do we have Class A and what?
Class X?
Oh,
No.
no.
They're all Class A's, right? Because it
Well, no.
brings up the Class X in 89, you know?
Right, so felony classes are
I'm like, we didn't have
A
X
through
when I was there. I know that. I was 11.
Right.
anyway,
But there are
so,
some-
okay, can't help.
I mean, it would predate that.
Predate
X.
X, which were
Correct.
violent offenders or sex offenders.
That might have been like major violators back in like the day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Back when I was in law enforcement.
Probably.
Yeah,
when you were a baby then.
yeah.
Michael, you there? Michael Stahl?
He's taking a nap.
When jury kitchen told me what to do.
Turn down Bonanza.
Maybe he did fall asleep.
It's
Sorry, guys,
Quanta.
I had to step away quickly. What was that?
We had, you and I,
Say
He
yes.
does have that quickly.
we had talked about, did you want to, as Jerry's shown all this good information, now that we're at incidents, did you kind of have something that, how you saw it happening? And like, we're going to have, like Mike Dunn said, we're going to have first base, second base, third base, and then we go to here, like a process. Have you thought any more about that?
Yeah, I mean, I can walk everyone through my thoughts. And the first question that I have though is, do you want to know my thoughts as if we were doing it for May, or my thoughts as if we were doing it as we're going to do it when we're all caught up?
I would say, yeah, for May.
Okay, so for May, I think it's important to keep in mind that we're a little bit behind, obviously. And so it's the May period for review is probably going to consist of a randomized portion of the incidents. We probably won't be able to get to all of May's just from an efficiency standpoint. And also because we need to plow through some of these months to get caught up. But eventually the hope is that we'll be efficient enough that we can do all of the incidents every month. So if we start with May's incidents, the first step I think would be to randomize the incidents and then choose a certain percentage of the incidents to review. So 10%, 15%, 20%, whatever you all think you can handle for that first month. Once we once we've randomized and chosen our incidents, I will segregate them and I will send out the incident numbers and all the pertinent information about those incidents to everyone. The expectation would be that everybody utilizes the procedures that Jerry has identified to look through those incidents. And then on the Excel spreadsheet that got sent out, if they're satisfied with that incident and it's procedurally looks like it was appropriate, the result looks like it was appropriate, then you would go into the Excel spreadsheet and you would classify that incident as okay, which would turn that incident green, essentially. For the incidents that you have further questions about, or you aren't quite sure that certain procedures were followed or the result is problematic for you, then you would simply put not okay in that Excel spreadsheet. And I would think that process would take about a week and a half, 10 days, maybe, depending on how many we choose to do. Once you've completed review of those incidents, then you would send me your sheet and I would consolidate all of the incidents that are marked as not okay from each of the members. Then we would all get together and we would talk about those incidents to the extent that someone has identified a problem with them and to determine what the next step should be with that incident. So, for example, Jerry's looking at the incidents for May. He comes across one where there wasn't the $5 fee taken away or something like that. So he marks not okay. We get to the meeting where we're talking about the ones that have been flagged. And he says, I just want to know what happened with the $5 incident. Well, maybe in that case, it's a letter to the assistant, the assistant commissioner or somebody who could answer exactly what happened. It can happen with that incident. But maybe someone else flags something where they say, hey, this result looks completely off. Like this guy's gotten in trouble and they're not taken away. Well, maybe in that, for further review of that incident, we need to write a letter to the institutional investigator or the warden, and we want to have conversations, or we want the inmate file to determine, what's going on there. So once we talk about it and some clarification is made to me from the individual members, hey, this is what I saw in that particular incident, and this is what I'd like to know more about, then I can go forth and try to get that information for you. And then we would come back together and talk about the particular incidents. If our questions are answered and we review the follow-up information to its completion, and then we can go back through and we can mark that incident as either okay, hey, I've done further review, I understand where the problem was, whatever, and it becomes okay. At the end of the month, we'll be left with a small percentage of incidents that are not okay. That, look, we first flagged them, then we went through and we reviewed further information that we needed, and we still think that there's a problem. The policy wasn't followed, or it was followed, but it's problematic, or whatever. Then at that point, we need to discuss, okay, what are we going to do? Do we have a policy recommendation? Do we talk to, do we put it in our monthly report at the end of the month that we've seen that? So that's the way I see that process happening.
Right. Yeah, and I'm thinking if, let's say for May, because we're behind and we've talked about, we need to move forward. So we do 10%, there's 1,400, so it's 140, 150, somewhere in there, that we all look at. Do we, and you and I talked about, what if we're just seeing, let's say if we only have 5 out of all of us, then we would check into those. If it's just one person, I guess, I'm sorry, let me put this better. If Mary, let's say if Lee sees one and everybody else thinks it's okay, is that enough to further investigate, or does it need to be the majority of us that have looked at it? I mean, that's something, could everybody have their own, or I guess if we flag them, I'm just trying to think how our policy will work. Right. And so Michael sends them out, and total of all of us, there's 47. And I go, and I know the ones I've looked at, and I've got a problem with them. And I go, one that Mary had a problem with. and Betsy does the same thing, or we're checking each other's work on the ones that have problems. Is that how
Yes.
we would
I would
work
think
it? I mean, does that seem normal?
But then what do we do if I'm like, I don't think there's a problem with it? Why are you calling the investigator?
Right, and so do we look at it as majority rules and we're not gonna do that one? Or is one person enough to go, we want information? And I guess we were talking about, is there gonna be 78 or are there gonna be 6? I don't know what we're gonna, once we dive into it, what are we gonna find? I mean, and I'm just throwing that out there. Does anybody have an opinion how we do that? Is one person enough to? Or would we talk to each other and say, oh, no, do you not? And then maybe you called me and said, Lee, no, you're missing this. And I go, oh, I see it. Because sometimes a second set of eyes is going to make you see what you've missed.
Well, I think part of it is going to come down to,
Sometimes we talk or something. And then I go, well, no, I can change that one too. Okay.
Exactly. We're looking at, and we're all on the same page, looking at the same thing, then it's less likely we'd be seeing different things. So for instance, just a couple of things I wrote down was check to make sure the fee was correct, right? That's one of them.
Okay.
Check to make sure the sentence reduction was within the appropriate range, okay? What else should I be checking for? I know those two.
Punitive segregation.
Okay, what about that one?
The punitive segregation can go from 0 to a maximum of 30. The first offense can go to a maximum of 10. Second offense, maximum of 20. The third offense is maximum of 30.
And is that on one of these pages?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
That's and 30 is the maximum period.
Okay, and does everybody get punitive segregation, or it could be,
It's strictly up to the deed.
so it could be 0?
It could be 0.
So punitive segregation will either be there or not be there, but what am I gonna use to determine if it should have been there? Is there something?
Usually you see segregation more than you see reduced credits at some times.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, it depends on the offense.
How you doing,
If-
sir?
If you look down the list, the, like refusal to participate and possession of a cell phone, they,
It was at 1% when it
Smother.
turned on, up to 98% now.
altering a drug test,
This is
alter
was
drug
like a
test,
test for touch, but
They-
everything
they
here
added in,
was.
more, reductions.
If you want to take a
3
minute
months
with
of
it, just
visitation to a year
Hold on,
restriction.
Jerry, can you hold on?
No.
Okay, go ahead. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
So they, on some of those, and I have them listed out by their findings, they take more, put more restrictions. Because they can
Okay.
put you on a 12-month restriction, which could be anything from your visitation, your phone privileges, no commissary, your recreation, they
So
got
restrictions is another category to look at,
restrictions,
okay?
yes.
So right now I have 4. Be correct, incorrect, sentence reduction within appropriate ranges, punitive segregation within appropriate ranges on that one too, okay? And then other restrictions.
Other restrictions.
And,
But there weren't ranges for the restrictions.
No.
That's just like,
The
Discretionary.
restrictions, the maximum is 12 months.
okay, so that's what I'm looking for,
Yeah.
is do any of these restrictions say more than 12 months?
12 months, and if you go, and it says in there, if you've got a guy that just continuously is going over, then the warden can actually alter if they go over the 12 months. The warden may say, we're still going to take away your commissary, but we're going to give you limited visitation like with a family member. But it's spelled out that if they're going over a year on restrictions, it's up to the warden on like visitation.
So is there a notation that the warden said,
Yes.
blah, blah, blah?
Yes.
Okay, so restrictions no more than 12 months unless warden,
Yeah, the warden.
okay? So what else should we look for?
The only other thing is they can assess a the D board can actually assess a restitution for damages. You don't see that very often. I think we
Right.
saw like a $50-something one
Right.
for tampering with a security device. But,
So are there circumstances where I should always see a restitution or not really?
It's really all that, they leave that completely up to the D board.
Discretion.
Yeah, and actually TDOC policy is if you ask for a secondary drug test, then you're supposed to pay a $300 fee for your outside drug test. But that doesn't, you don't see that in Thomas, but that is a written rule. And the money goes in the general fund because they're making a ton off a $300 drug test.
So just kind of thinking about what you just said, and this also to Mike Stahl, is it possible, apart from the spreadsheet that says okay, not okay, that we could have drop downs and highlight, okay, this one's not okay because the fee wasn't correct, or this one wasn't okay because it's not within sentence range, or you know,
Yeah,
sentence
we can,
something like
yeah,
that.
we can make it.
That way we're not looking a lot of places to find it. It's not okay. Here's the drop down. And if we can highlight as many as apply, not just one, but as many as apply, and then maybe next to that, a cell that lets us write any sort of additional notes. So that rather than just say, Lee, I'd like you to look at this, you know why I'm asking you to look at it. What's the particular element?
Mhm.
So is there, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, absolutely. That's what I want to get. The spreadsheet now is very Spartan, but I want to build it out to where it's useful. So those kind of ideas are great. And we basically do whatever you all think we need to make it an efficient.
Well, and I don't even know that we need a drop down. Like, I mean, we could, but I think that if we're gonna add a space for extra comments, then just have the extra space, right? Because if you're gonna have to click on it's an extra, like if you're doing a drop down and then also adding comments, that's 2 steps. If we're just doing comments, that's 1 step, right? And then if we have a drop down that pigeonholes us into these 5, but what if it's something else, right? I mean, we know what we're looking for right now, but next month we could be like, oh, we need to also be looking for . So then our drop down just gets longer and longer and longer. So maybe we just have a not okay, not okay, why? Next block is why, right? And you could do something as simple as $5, or however you want to annotate it, right?
They're pretty consistent on $5.
Okay, back to Lee's question about what we do when we have problem ones.
To me, and this is just my thoughts, is when we send Mike Stahl our, I guess, oversight of the queries, what we've seen, we're not going to know who clicked the it's okay or not okay. So I would think that we would have them submitted like prior to the Wednesday before we set our agenda.
Mm-hmm.
So we would be able to look at them between then and the next meeting and make our own little notes where we came back in, and basically we would kind of be like a jury and we would deliberate, and like, we would start at the first one and say, incident number 01621775, we've got a note here, and, what's everybody's thoughts? Because we may be looking at it and get to discuss it, and we think, oh, they're right. It was right.
Yeah.
But then if we've got 2 or 3 saying, well, there's a problem here, then we probably need to look further.
Maybe, I like that. Maybe what we could do is just go down say there are 10. Who knows? And just say, take a vote on the first one. How many, the first person that reviewed it said not okay, that's why it's there.
Mm-hmm.
Then we'll just go around okay, not okay. And if we have majority okay, we won't even discuss it, because, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because otherwise I think we're gonna get caught. Like if we just go and discuss each one and then
Oh my
vote,
gosh, would be days.
we'll be here forever.
Yeah, days.
So maybe like your job, once Stoll sends out the not okays, is to review it and come in prepared to vote okay or not okay.
Yeah, and
And
we
then
can
if we
make
get
notes.
5 not okays, then we'll do the institutional investigator, whatever.
Yeah, and we'll do a roll call.
Now, are you saying, will it be majority, like if
That's my suggestion.
3 of us think it's got a problem and 2 go, I don't see what you guys are seeing, and we debate it and everybody's staying in their position,
I think it'll
do
have
you
to
see what I'm
be
saying?
Yeah.
What do you
Yeah,
think, Michael? You had
5
talked
of us,
about
It would
it.
have to be 5, yeah. Majority
Like
of the
5
board.
okays, or otherwise we'll investigate it. Like if we have 4 okays and 3 not, right? I don't know.
I agree. If majority of the board
Is our
agrees
majority
it is
5 or 4?
whatever it is, oh, that's what we go with. I think.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
What do you think, Michael or Quantel?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with whatever. I always think that you we're all here for our collective wisdom, and if a majority of the people who have been brought together to accomplish this mission feel the same way about something, then I think that's enough like-mindedness that you can feel comfortable moving forward.
And I think also we would allow the not okays to have the floor and say, this is why it's not okay, right? So then that way, even though
Then
you,
that gets in a discussion.
but still, I feel like, even if I'm an okay, right? I want to hear why Lee thinks it's not okay, because maybe it's something I didn't look at or didn't realize or didn't know, and I'm going to learn something that day. And I think the more we do it,
Okay.
the less that's going to happen.
The first 14-hour meeting we have.
I'm just saying, like, I'm not saying debate and discuss
I
the entire
know.
thing,
We don't
but I
know
just
if
want to
it's
hear,
gonna
what did
be.
you think it was, what did you think was okay? Not okay.
TDOC is doing their job, like, it could be 4 of them. And then we're, it's real quick,
Yeah.
or it could be half of them.
Right.
We've got problems.
I don't
with.
think it's gonna-
don't
yeah, I
think
think
we're
it's
gonna be-
700 not
Smaller.
okays. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a
I
small
mean,
one.
we can adapt as we go.
Well, and I
Yes,
think,
that's a good point.
right,
We can adapt.
we will adapt, yeah, and I think the more, like, maybe the first meetings are longer, but then after we've encountered enough of these,
Right.
like, it starts to level out, like, those that saw not okay are now, they see okay, and those that are okay now see, you know what I mean, like,
Okay.
are you okay?
Right.
Speaking of.
Yeah, I am. No, I'm sitting here thinking, so the first one, we're all gonna look at the same 150. And we're gonna get the sheet saying this, but I thought it was okay, but you didn't. So the ones that are not, unless it's mine, I know why that one's not okay, because I sent it in. I'm gonna go to yours and yours and yours and be prepared to talk about it.
Mhm.
So I know what's going on, instead of just going, yeah, I trust, she
Yeah,
said
make
it's
your
not
own
okay.
opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, you form your own opinion, so when we come in and do a roll call vote, Michael Stahl says, okay, number 15, done, how do you see, then, and we get.
And
it.
everybody has looked at it before
Everybody-
we got
Yeah.
here and spent extra time
Because we
on
can't do
those,
it in the
right?
meeting.
Oh, and well, right, and then if we're making the proper notes with it, we're gonna skip right over your concern, because if we're making the proper notes in the spreadsheet, not okay, this why, then I know why you think it's not okay, and when I review it,
You can look for that.
I can look for that exact problem, and
Right.
either I think it's a problem or I don't think it's a problem.
Good point.
Right, yeah, so then we don't have as much discussion during the meeting. Mhm.
And I think as we start reviewing them, we will see a pattern, because I was looking at one particular disciplinary offense that had 2 offenders. Well, one of the offenders got like a 3-month
Reduction.
reduction. The other one had no reduction, and I thought, that's odd. Well, I went back to his disciplinary history. It was the first disciplinary offense he'd ever had, so I could see where the disciplinary board could say, hey, it's his
First
first,
offender.
the other guy,
That
this
is
is
the
his
key.
3rd or 4th. So
Never did
we'll
that.
see a pattern as we start going through it, that we realize, well, I understand now why they did this and did that.
One of the things you want us to do is compare the result for, if there's multiple offenders involved in an incident, compare them to one another.
Right, because,
But still on these 4 items or on anything else?
on the 4
Just
items.
those 4, okay.
Because while we're looking at a certain offender, we can go back and look at his disciplinary history. Well, the first guy may have had 2 pages because there's 10 per page. So he had 20 write-ups, not all of them A's, but B's and C's. And the other guy, and I'll use, because let's say it was possession of a cell phone. There were 2 people in the cell and they both got written up. Well, the other guy, this was his first write-up period. I can see why they didn't take time away from him because it was his first offense.
Right. Yeah,
So when we're assigned an incident, we are to look at all offenders who received a disciplinary associated with that particular incident.
Yes, ma'am.
Run it through those 4 things: fee, sentence reduction, range, punitive segregation, and restrictions.
Yes, ma'am.
Those 4, but then compare them to each other. And like you said, go back, because that's how you decide if they were really in the right range.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just write that down. Thank you.
Yeah, that's good. And some of this I agree, we'll modify. I think
I'm
that's
sure.
what you said. We'll modify,
Yeah, as
hey,
we
this
get-
isn't working out.
Yeah.
Let's try it this way.
I agree.
I would like, and what, if everybody's okay, to get to Thomas, and Jerry and I talked about just starting at Bledsoe, and could we just, and do like, while we're sitting here right now,
Yeah,
and just,
I would too.
what do you think about that? And then,
Well,
Sure, just
where are
talk.
we on the agenda?
is that part of the agenda, Michael Stahl?
Yeah, the entirety of the second agenda item, there's only 3 agenda items today. The first one we took care of in the morning. The second part of the agenda is what we're discussing right now. So however much we can get through this second part is the entirety of the second agenda item. And then just before we close the meeting, we'll just have to offer public comment. So those are the only 3 agenda items. So once we feel like we've gotten to a good point today, we can stop whenever and wrap up and do the public comment period and then adjourn. So what this agenda item is just all encompassing. We're discussing the practical protocol associated with reviewing individual incidents for the May period. Everything from how are we choosing the incidents, to what are we looking for, to what are we asking for when we see a problem, to how are we going to treat things that we can't resolve ourselves, all of that. So it's a big agenda item, but it's all encompassed into one issue. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes. So
Okay.
Mike Stahl, could I ask a question just on the spreadsheet? When it's okay, not okay, since for some of the incidents, it may be multiple offenders who received a disciplinary. Let's say 3 people are involved. 2 of them seem to fit all the criteria, but one of them didn't. So in the comment section, if someone checks not okay because we want to look at the one, so do you want us to identify in the comment section which one we want to look at if there's multiples?
Well, Jerry and I actually talked about that, and we were going to add a column for the specific TOMAS number associated with that particular incident. So if there are multiple offenders associated with one incident, next to the incident number column would be a new column, and it would have the TOMAS number listed for the multiple people. So what I was thinking was when we choose the incidents that we're going to look at for May, I'm going to add that column, and I'm going to send out an updated spreadsheet for May showing which incidents we've decided to review and showing the new column with the TOMAS numbers associated with that incident. If it's one offender, you'll just get one TOMAS number next to the incident number. If it's multiple offenders, you'll see multiple TOMAS numbers in individual rows. next to that incident number. So you should be able to go into the individual offender and do okay, not okay.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, and thank you, Jerry, for thinking about that.
But we don't have that spreadsheet yet, right?
We have a May spreadsheet. Mike hasn't reduced it by 10%.
Okay.
But we were talking about, maybe just going to May on his spreadsheet and just starting at Bledsoe and just picking out some, just to kind of look at him.
Were you wanting to do May or just pick up? I thought we were just doing like a tutorial. Or
It doesn't matter.
I mean, if we're going to May, I mean, make it
Well, we can do
formal, or are we just kind of teaching it?
I think we're.
Would you like to, are you exploring teaching and learning?
Sure, go through and explore first.
I mean, I'm on like,
Yeah.
715, conspiracy to violate state law at Bledsoe. Is everybody on Thomas? You on Thomas?
No, not on Thomas. Are we done with the agenda, Michael Stahl?
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, that way we're all looking at it.
Oh,
It's-
yeah, we don't have to all do it together, okay.
No, but
But I mean.
Well,
like.
Well, are we gonna finish the agenda first before we do this? I thought that's what we said, or. like,
Yeah, we're
five-
doing this off the public meeting, right?
Yeah, this is like, this part is
Oh,
off the public
okay,
meeting.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's true.
So we gotta
This
wrap
is
up
just a training session.
so that's what I was going to say. I mean, you can do it now, but you're going to have to, anything you do now, you have to be real careful about, particular information associated with an individual inmate. If you close the meeting and then go into a training session, talk more freely. So it's up to you all how you want to do it.
I think we're gonna finish the agenda first, Mr. Stahl.
Okay. Well, like I said, this is the second item. So whenever everyone feels comfortable with where they're at in terms of the protocol for reviewing incidents specifically related to May, because like we talked about earlier, I think that process is going to change a little bit as we become more efficient, and hopefully we'll be able to review all the incidents for each individual month. So this agenda item is addressing the review process for incidents in May. We're going to learn each other's tendencies. I know, for example, Jerry's going to want to let everybody out. He's going to feel bad about all the innocent people he kept in jail for all those years. So he's going to want to let everybody out. That's probably going to be his tendency. And we're just going to learn about each other that way.
Right. Well, let's figure out how are we gonna do this 10% for May?
Aren't we closing the meeting?
Yeah, we need.
No, we have to establish a policy for
Oh,
how
okay.
we come up with 10%.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Before we can
That is true.
establish, that has to be on
We
the
need to vote
record.
on that.
Yeah, we need to vote on that. So how do we, because that's the first thing, right? I think we've got the spreadsheet that we're looking at now as created, with listing the incidents, the incident number with the disciplinary code, and then each Thomas ID, okay, not okay, comment section, why not okay, right? That format I think is good. Does everybody agree that setup is fine? What we need to decide now for the month of May is how we are going to establish the 10% pool.
So do
And
we
it
settle
does
on
have-
10%? Is that what we're doing? That would be about 140 something incidents for the
I
month
thought
of May.
Stahl was just gonna be like randomly selected.
It
I think
cannot, no, you have to have a set random picker. Like it feels counterintuitive.
Like every 10th one?
It feels like an oxymoron. It's random, but it's also set.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
I think to start out, I think 10% while people, because I think after that, things are gonna move forward. I think I'm voting for 10%. I think it's fine because I know we've got 6 months, 7 months behind us that we're.
Okay, so,
If we move really fast, we can always change it.
okay, so and then how do we select the 10%?
Yeah, do we need to make a motion first?
Here's the point on these. There might be in the month of May, a rape or a arson, really serious stuff where they charged them with arson, took 15 months. There might be one of them. If we do a random, the odds are we're not gonna get those really violent ones. Me and Michael talked about this. Either we can just go, because there's a ton of refusal to participate in non-violent things like failed a drug test. You might not ever see them. Do we weight it which Michael, which,
Okay.
no,
No,
follow
I'm
me
not,
on
but no,
this.
no, I'm
Do
totally
we-
following you guys. I think we sort it by.
Do we wait it, or we just go, whatever comes out is the total random that we're?
I think we sort by offense, right? So do a sort by offense, not by facility, not, right? So you just get all the rapes together, all the arsons together, all the violation of state law together, all those together, and then 10% of each offense. Right?
Okay.
10% of each offense, that's so that we get an even look at every offense that's out there, an equal look.
What do you think, Michael?
I mean, I can do that. We can do that in Excel. It's going to take a little bit longer to do it that way, but we can do that. Sure.
How else would we do it? Because I think that's
And
actually,
make sure you get a representative
Of each,
sample of
right.
each type.
Yeah, there'll be
Yeah.
So
some where
that we
there's,
have exercise.
Well, and we could even change it like month by month or like maybe for 6 months we do by type 10%. And then the next 6 months we do by facility 10%. Or, we can always adapt and change it later. But if the concern is that we're not looking at, we might miss some of the more serious ones, then that's how we have to sort it. Yeah.
Well, the other way might be all the serious ones, such as loss of life or whatever, we look at all of those. So, for instance, the parole board has 27 hearing officers. There are certain kinds of cases before them to be considered for parole, and those are heard by the hearing officers using the guidelines. But all, for instance, loss of life and some other very serious offenses are heard by the parole board members themselves.
right.
So I'm not suggesting that, we wouldn't hear some. I'm just saying, do we want to create rank order of severity in terms of, I want to be sure that we look at all of the ones that would be of this type, but maybe the refusal to
Right.
participate.
Well,
That's what you're
I
gonna
think
find.
and I think that is, I hear that, and that feels very natural, right? To say, more importantly, we need to look at loss of life. But then if I follow that thought all the way out, I hear Mr. Dunn's voice, right? Of things just get slid under the rug and ignored, and he still gets his good credit, and it's not a big deal. He's, I'm making a little money on the side, whatever, right? I hear in the lesser crimes, the refusal to participate, just as you said, this is not as big of a deal. They're gonna go, well, listen, just don't do anything serious and I can make it go away. They're not gonna look at it. They're not coming down. They're not auditing as per our monthly report. They're not auditing the lesser crimes. So you do that as much as you want, sir. Just don't do anything. Don't set anything on fire. Don't kill nobody. And the chances are the board's not gonna see it. So that would be my only devil's advocate.
So let me clarify.
Yeah.
I thought we're just discussing how we get started and how we start learning on these, and that we're looking at a sample because we want to get our feet underneath ourselves, that this would not be a practice of the board going on, that our job really is to look at all of them. And so for the purpose of looking at May and for the purpose of getting everybody using this procedure that we've just lined out, we're gonna look at a sample of them.
Do you need to plug in?
no,
But that's different than saying every month we're gonna look at a sample of them, because that would be a totally different motion.
Okay, then
This is just.
to play devil's advocate to that one, right? If I'm learning, I want 10% of everything, right? Because I want an equal representation of all of them so that I can get equal practice of all of them, not do all my practice on these, which,
On RTP.
right? And then like all the serious crimes, that is 10%. And I don't get
Now,
to some
Michael-
of these over here that are at the bottom.
Okay,
Michael had a good.
Could I
I'm sorry.
just, for a moment, here's the deal. The most serious ones, there are fewer of. So let's
They
say
are,
there's 10, and you want 10%, you're gonna look at one of those. And the ones that happen all the time, there's 300 of them. And so 10%, you're gonna look at 30 of those. And so for that purpose, so that, because this is practice and learning, I'm saying look at a larger number of the more serious ones, because it's okay to say we're gonna look at 10% across the board if all the buckets have the same amount in them. All the buckets don't have the same amount
Right,
in
not
them.
even close.
And that's why I'm saying we need to think about this bucket over here, there's only 10 of those.
Yeah, and on some of the serious,
Right.
really serious ones, there may only be one.
Right.
Correct.
Like
And
I
so-
saw
So then
on
that would be
staff,
10%.
assault on staff with a weapon, maybe, 200, there might be 5, maybe
Right.
2.
Right.
But that's where they've used a weapon to hurt a guard.
But getting my
just throwing
practice
urine
on,
on 'em.
look, I'm focusing on how am I getting my practice by having sufficient examples of it to make sure I'm consistent versus just saying, well, 10% from every bucket, no matter how full or how empty the bucket is. That's where I'm trying to strike the balance between figuring out something that's reliable. But I say again, I'm only seeing this as an exercise to get us
Yeah,
started
just-
with the assumption we're going to move forward looking at everything.
Michael, do you think if we gave your wisdom, if we agreed to what Mary, I kind of agree with what Mary's saying. Does it, anybody, or do y'all think it should be 10% of the bucket? I was just gonna say, if we just said, Michael, can you give us a good representation for the month of May? You make the judgment, you're a smart person, you're executive director of a
Okay.
assortment of the, I don't.
No, I'm following you. Okay, so this is what I'm gonna say, is that Stall, it's a blind representation. Stall, you just do whatever you want, and it's blind to us. We have no idea how you picked them. That makes it.
But you want 10% of them.
10%, however, 10% looks to
Okay.
you where we get a fair and adequate assessment for our learning experience that we're gonna go through for May. And then the board can say, I have no idea how they were selected. It's a blind look for us, right? We had no input on how they were picked. We had no input how they were selected. As Lee has said, we trust you, you're smart, you're our executive director, you pull the poll and we'll look at it.
Give us a stall sample.
Give us a stall sample, that's what we go call it. That's forevermore, the stall sample. And then that way we can say there's no bias, period, for us.
I'm happy to do that. The only thing I ask is whichever incidents you look at today and tomorrow or whenever for training purposes, let me know so I don't include those in the sample.
Okay,
Okay, perfect.
I was just gonna pull, for training purposes, I was just gonna do July, that we've not even looked at yet. Does that not make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah, that's fine too. Okay.
We'll just let him know which ones we looked at and then.
Yeah,
we
this
get the
isn't
first
even
record.
something we've even written, we hadn't even got these ready to go yet. No, we can't look at July, can we?
Most
a lot of-
July's not gonna
yeah.
be-
Yeah, that wouldn't help.
Well, let's look at May.
May.
Let's do May. Let's do some of the work that we need to be doing. And then just
Okay,
somebody can
you're
send him a
right. Just
list.
give him
Yeah, let's get into what we're supposed to be doing. And then we'll send him a list so he doesn't repeat it. And there is the stall sample.
Michael, when you do them, because when you go to incidents, you've got to put in the prison. So you'll have to put incident and then the prison outside of it.
Stalls will deal with SH.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah, I can do that. That's fine.
Yeah,
Jerry,
because, if you just go to an incident, they're gonna require you put in a prison.
Well, you may finish this text.
Okay.
Hey, Michael, how long will it take to get the 10%? Like this week sometime?
Oh yeah. I could. If you guys go into tomorrow with your training, I could probably have something by Tuesday afternoon to send out to everybody.
I'm not trying to rush you, and I know you're sick. I just was curious.
No, it won't take that long. I'm happy to do that once I know whatever you all looked at, so I don't include that, I can do a randomization process, and then I can look through the randomization process to make sure that it's well representative of all of the codes, and then get that out relatively quickly. It shouldn't take too much time.
Okay, so now we have the spreadsheet down, the percentage down, how we're getting the percentage down. What's that? Is that it for item number 2?
We're just dealing with May, because I've got other ideas for once we move past May, but we
Oh,
don't
dear.
need that right now.
That sounds ominous.
No, I was just saying, if we want to look at all of them, if we have 1,400, we split them up 7 ways, that's 200 each month for each person. Once we get proficient in it.
That'll
I
be
mean, is
nothing,
that what everybody's seeing, is
Yes.
doing your own?
for sure.
That way we're not leaving out 90% of
I mean,
them.
that's how I envisioned this job.
That's kind of how I envisioned it.
Me too.
I mean, once we
I
get
never
it.
dreamed I was being.
But we'll also, if we pull one, we'll be able to check each other's work, right? So there is a backstop that we're
Yeah.
checking each other's work.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was item number 2, Mr. Stahl, and you said there was the third item on the agenda,
Just public comment.
which we don't have any public here. Do we have any correspondence?
No.
No, then we have no public comment whatsoever, and so that's everything.
Yeah, and then I usually put an end portion there, just closing notes. If anyone has closing notes that they want to mention before the end of the meeting that didn't fit into an agenda item. Does anyone have anything for that?
Appreciate your work while you're not feeling well, brother.
Yes, thank you.
It's all right. It's all right. Well, I will just say quickly, because I'll let you guys get on to your training. Let me know what the schedule looks like tomorrow. You have the conference room again, same conference room, same time, all day tomorrow, to whatever extent you need it. And then I will put together the list for May, the 10%, and get that out to everybody. While we're doing that work and reviewing those cases once they get out to everybody, don't forget also to be working on your subcommittee stuff. So policy subcommittee, guideline subcommittee, and then Mike, you and I can get together offline about how to contact Mr. Baisden and engage with him, given today's vote and discussion. And then also don't forget to stay up on your facilities for June and July, if anyone hasn't done June already, for those tracking those incidents, so that, you know, as we get caught up, we're not trying to go back in time again and recovering all that. So
We already have June. I think we're going backwards to January.
So does anyone still have incidents left in their facilities going back to January that they have to cover for either? Okay, so those are the three. Those are the 3 things to be working on: your subcommittee work, your incident collection data from your facilities going back to the beginning of the year, and once I get the incidents out from May, to start reviewing those. If we can do that, I mean, we're rocking and rolling. We should be busy, and I think we got some stuff to be proud of. So, and I will give everybody updates as it comes along with stuff like business cards, the Andrew Jackson building, all that kind of stuff. But we're in good shape with that. All that's moving forward. If you've got specific questions, just get with me offline, and I'm happy to talk about any of those things. And that's all.
I have a couple of points. Jerry has dove in and done some, because he just can't stop himself.
I was gonna tell y'all, as far as, you had Kearney Center out of my group, and I think you had Trisdale out of my group.
You're jealous, ain't you?
He did.
I was bored.
He wants it back.
I was bored Friday, so I went all the way back to January on those.
Through
You are
Turney.
wonderful.
Turney is.
Steak is on me.
Yeah, you would think that they're more controlled.
Steak and taters on me.
Is there any that haven't, I mean, I can take somebody
I'm trying to think who might have
now
facilitated.
you had a Northeast.
Oh, yeah, Northeast. Well, and if we've got a moment, I just want to share an observation now that I've got the 2 of you across the table from me, between Turney and Northeast. So I won't name the type of incident, but there's a common type of incident at both Turney and Northeast. At Northeast, every time that one is written on somebody, there's a second one written on them as well. And what I see at Turney is they just write the first one, but they never write the second one. And so this is why this one facility has so many more than this one, because this one event, for whatever reason, because as we suspect, facilities are handling these differently. And I haven't gotten to show what was the disposition of it. I'm just saying, when they're writing it, they write one and then they turn around and automatically hit them with the associated one as well, whereas the other facility is not doing that. They just write the one. So did you all see that when you all were looking at them? Not necessarily
I
at
mean,
those
I will
facilities,
see,
but
I'll
in
see
general.
some where they hit them with something, then they hit them with an interference with an officer. Is that what you're talking about, an
Well, it's
INT?
not necessarily that, but yes, there are other associate, like
I mean, I
something
just
happens and there's
vaguely
really
remember.
multiple things that are happening. But I appreciate the fact I have these two particular ones because it was so starkly different that every time this one, then they wrote them the second one. And over here, they just wrote them the first one and that was it.
Okay.
So y'all didn't see something like that?
I saw a lot of them, like if they were participating in gang activity, then they also got a INT too.
Yeah, I saw some of that.
Uh,
Do you need help?
No, I'm good.
You got,
Thank
you got
I can get mine
Northwest.
done this week. I just had a busy.
Can you
And
do,
now I'll take Turney off my list. Thank you, Jerry.
you got Northeast?
I've got Northeast, yes.
Vanessa, because I was hoping we could, be done. I mean, we can start diving into January after we get done with May and try to catch up. Do you still have Morgan to do? Do you have another one? You want me to do Morgan? You
I
good?
have DeBerry and Luttrell,
Do
so I don't have another one.
You don't have Morgan?
I do
Get
have
Morgan.
Morgan. What I'm saying is I
only
have
has-
Morgan,
Okay.
DeBerry, and
Effectively.
Luttrell,
Okay,
so
so you
effectively
do-
I only
You're
have
gonna do
Morgan.
Morgan back to January then?
Yes.
Okay, I won't ask
and
you
she's
again.
gonna
about it.
do, she's
You
gonna
got
do
luck.
electrical debrief.
I think we're still in the meeting.
Jerry couldn't help himself. I knew he could. He was like, I'm
I
gonna
was
do it.
forward.
I got locked out.
It's not.
And then my wife.
Don't we need to close the meeting?
I
have
thought,
one-
I mean,
I
I
have
don't
one more
people just.
thing about
That needs to be.
tomorrow.
in
We
the
need to
public-
talk about tomorrow. Do you want to start at 8,
Let's
9?
close the meeting. Isn't this a house?
Oh, I thought this was at the end.
Yeah, no.
Was tomorrow's meeting a closed
Hey.
meeting?
Michael?
I don't know.
I haven't posted an agenda for tomorrow, so we
I
can
was thinking it was.
we can make it a public meeting. I just need to post an agenda. I wanted to see how today went, and then decide. So do we? If we had gone through the agenda today and tomorrow's just going to be training, then that doesn't have to be open. If we're going to vote on something tomorrow, then it needs to be a public meeting. So you all tell me what you're thinking. You want to do.
I don't think it needs to be.
I don't either.
If it's just work, because if it's public, we would have to make sure we didn't say the inmate's name, everything would be referred. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be a pain.
So
The spreadsheet, the percentage and all that other jazz, does that need to be a motion and voted on? Or is it the discussion enough?
Before we close.
Because we need to vote on it.
I make a motion that the procedures that have just been discussed as a learning endeavor for the month of May be accepted as our process for our work group both this afternoon and tomorrow.
I second.
All right. Any more discussion on that? Okay, let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Quantel, were you able to say aye on that one?
Yeah, I was out.
Okay, all right, great. So that passes. So that's what we'll do. Did we decide if tomorrow's going to be a public meeting or a closed one?
Closed.
Closed.
Okay, all right. So then there won't be an agenda and there won't be a particular start time for that. So you all can figure out the details on your own. Like I said, that conference room is available to you. Parking is available. So all the logistics should be taken care of.
Good.
That's all I have.
Meeting adjourned at 1:45.
Hey,
If anybody needs,
hey, Mary, can you send me the transcript? I don't know if I can get it. I've never been a participant and tried to get the transcript before.
Yes, and I just stopped it, Mike.
Perfect, 'cause I can take my kids to camp, but
Me and Jerry will work out at the gym.
Well, actually, it's still transcribing, but the
What time are we
recording
meeting?
has stopped.
I can't do any time.
I thought
Okay.
you said 8.
Not needing to stop
I
it.
mean, I can do 8. She said she can.
Oh,
What-
don't listen.
But you,
What's that, Mary? I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
thinking 8 to 5, 8 to 4.
I can be here at 8.
I